the Final Four. We are old enough to remember the ridiculous BCS,
yes,
and everything that it entailed with computer rankings and the Harris poll and everything else. We're also old enough to remember when we just kind of guessed at the end of the year. They would play all the games. You would run through the Rose Bowl, the Orange Bowl, the Cotton Bowl, and then we would just kind of guess and anoint a national champion. And here we are, you and I back together, and in a couple of hours they will kick off in South Bend, Indiana, and we will declare, probably for the first time in college football history in a couple of weeks, maybe the most deserving national champion of all time.
I agree. And we know that even with Oregon's path, if you go through that gauntlet of potentially Ohio State, Texas, and Georgia to win a national championship, you are the undisputed king. So I know that you were not a big fan of expansion with the college football playoff, but I want to ask you this now. After the first full season, the regular season, into championship weekend, and now we get the 12-team field, looking back now, what do you think about the experience in year one with the expanded playoff?
I mean, it's not without its warts, but I mean, the fact that on the 20th of January, you know that the right coach is going to be hoisting that I guess it's not a crystal ball anymore, but is going to be hoisting that trophy, where you could make arguments year after year after year. Sometimes it was cut and dry. Miami, 2000. Nope, they're the national champions. But sometimes there was controversy, and now there's no way about it, because when the BCS happened, there were arguments for number 3. For a long time, there wasn't an argument for number 5, but Florida State put a wrinkle in that last year. Now there is no argument. I'm sorry to Ole Miss, and I'm sorry to Alabama, and I'm sorry to Miami. None of you deserve to be playing for a national title, and that's why the 12 team I like. My worry has always been the greedy SOBs that are running this sport are going to look at this and go, hey, 12, we made a boatload of cash.
Yeah.
How about 14?
Yeah.
How about 16? How about 32? And where ultimately does it end? But the fact that there is a 12-team playoff, and we're going to dive into, I'm sure, Oregon's unbelievable gauntlet that they put the number 1 team in the country. Only college football. The only sport in the world that could put the number 1 team in the country in that position. But the fact of the matter is there is not a deserving team that is left out.
Yeah.
Alabama.
For the kickoff to the college football playoff, we're sitting inside the sports book at Spirit Mountain Casino, which is beautiful. And coming up at 3:20, we're going to talk with Justin Ballinger, the sportsbook manager. I'm always curious to talk to the sportsbook manager to see who he has interest in and what he's looking at with these college football playoff games. But what do you think about the setup here? It is Vegas style because you got the cushy seats. We're right below a wall of televisions and technology, and you've got the bar right over here. You got 10 Barrel Brewing. Like, it is a good setup. It's legit.
It is beautiful, and you've got early action on bowl games. I know Indiana and Notre Dame are going to be kicking off about 5. It's unbelievable. They got Top Golf over there. If you want to come in, get some swings in, maybe get some aggression out. If your over doesn't hit, you get in there, smack some 7-irons or something.
Yes.
You got Top Golf over there. It's fantastic.
It is. We've got prizing, too. I've got some Oregon Duck prizes. So if you come down, if you're heading down to Spirit Mountain Casino for the Indiana-Notre Dame game tonight, come by and see me. We're going to be live on air until 6 o'clock. Your chance to win big and come down. And the best part is, and you got friends that dabble in the sports wagering, the Oregon Lottery does not offer college sports. No. But Spirit Mountain does. So any of the college football playoff games, any futures, any of the props that you might have interest in, this is your place to come down and get your action in. Maybe you want to put a future on Oregon to win the national championship. We've already talked to Justin. We know a number of people have done that. This is the place to go.
Chad, I've already downloaded the app. I have it right here.
You got it, the Spirit Mountain app.
I got the Spirit Mountain app downloaded on my phone. Yeah, this is dangerous for me because college football, as you know, is my favorite sport.
Yes.
And it's a sport I think I know the most about.
Yeah.
Which means when you start betting, you're going to learn real quick that you don't know the most about it because crazy things are going to happen with 20 and 21-year-old kids, especially in a playoff format. But no, I've already downloaded the app. I will be putting some money on my beloved Oregon Ducks, and I might have a couple of upsets in there too.
All right, give me the current lines for all of the games in the first round, starting with Indiana and Notre Dame, which is coming up tonight at 5.
So currently, right now, we got Notre Dame minus 6.5, so just under a touchdown favorite for the Irish. You got who we got?
SMU and Penn
SMU
State?
Penn State, that is 8.5, minus 8.5 Penn State, so just over a touchdown in that game. Clemson, Texas, I believe, is the biggest line, as Texas minus 12.5.
Wow.
In that game. And let me get to
Ohio State
the
and
Ohio
Tennessee.
State, Tennessee. That's a touchdown game. The Buckeyes. So surprising, like in this playoff, and we're going to talk about the seeding and everything else. A little bit surprised that, I mean, every game is a touchdown game or more.
Yeah.
I guess that's just what happens when you get into the first year of it. The seeding and the ranking and everything else definitely needs to be tweaked. But yeah, you've got 4 games, all essentially a touchdown or more in terms of the point spread. But I think we're going to see some upsets. I don't know about multiple, but I think we'll see one.
I agree. I'm with you on that. Now with Oregon, what was your mindset when you first looked at the bracket and you saw the potential path for the Ducks? Seriously, walk me through what you were thinking when you saw the bracket and you saw what Oregon might have to face to win a national championship.
I mean, first thought, how does this happen? I guess before the rankings came out, I tried to talk myself into, okay, is the committee going to do the right thing? And by that, I mean, there is no reason for Penn State to be ranked ahead of Ohio State. They beat them. We also saw what Penn State did against Oregon. We saw what Ohio State did against Oregon. I know that Ohio State laid an egg against Michigan, but every other metric shows that Ohio State is a better team than Penn State, and I was hoping upon hope that the committee would do the right thing and rank Ohio State higher than 8. They didn't. So once I saw that Ohio State was sitting there at 8, I thought, oh boy.
They overweighted the conference championship games.
Yes, they did. And, I mean, I understand why they do it. It is a made-for-TV event. Every Tuesday, you and I, we tune in. Here's the countdown. Here's what it looks like. But the problem is you paint yourself into a corner when you do that every Tuesday thing. Whereas, like, the NCAA basketball, imagine if they did that every Tuesday. NCAA basketball committee comes out and goes, here's the rankings as we see it. No, we get it one day. It's Selection Sunday, and you go, oh, wow, they had Georgetown on the 2 line. We didn't see that coming. Lenardi got that one wrong. They painted themselves into the corner with this weekly show. And I understand that ESPN wants programming and they want us to tune in, and they probably sold a lot of advertising, but it painted the committee into a corner where they couldn't conceivably look at Clemson and Boise. Clemson's a better football team than Boise. But Boise gets the ranking because of the way that it has been chutes and ladders and the way the old AP poll style of ranking that we have been doing for 100-plus years. Well, you're seeding out a 12-team tournament. Clemson should not be the 12 seed. Boise should. Penn State should not be the 5 seed or the 6 seed, excuse me. Ohio State should. Penn State should be sitting in that 8-9 game. So that was – I tried to talk myself into it, but then once I saw it, I was like, oh. So you're going to possibly get an Oregon-Ohio State Rose Bowl matchup, which is – football-wise, epic. And that's if Ohio State beats Tennessee. And then you're going to have possibly Texas in Dallas. And then even if you get through that, you go to the national championship game, and looking like, depending on their quarterback situation, Georgia in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And you're the number 1 team in the country.
Yeah, you're not being rewarded for your play or the way you perform throughout the course of the year. What happened is, the way it's been explained to me is, in order for the game of college football to get to a 12-team playoff, you had to go to all the different conferences and the commissioners. And it's like Congress, right, where you make these deals and you put together this long plan. And what you do is you make concessions on certain things, right? So in order to get to a 12-team playoff right now, they had to go to the point where, okay, we'll do this, but you need to guarantee that not only will our conference champ get into the playoff, but you get the bye.
Yeah.
And so that's how you get stuck with this weird setup with the seeding for the first couple of years of the playoff. Eventually we'll work out of that, but what they're trying to do right now, and it's still the same powers that are in charge that gave us the the voting method, then the BCS method, and then the 14 playoff. We're going to get to a point where it's going to change, and they'll adjust the seeding, but they're still trying to marry the new age of college football with the playoff, and they're trying to keep all the stuff from the old with the bowl games and the conference championship games, because there's a lot of money in conference championship games for each conference and the networks, and they're trying to marry these together. But the problem is those two sides don't mix. You've got to move away from the past to continue to build the playoff the way it should be.
Chad, it's like me when I try to fix stuff at my house. You're just like, no, I'll just do a little bit here.
Yeah.
Just do a little bit there.
Little patchwork
there. Until eventually, what do you have to do? You have to rip the whole thing out, call a guy that knows what he's doing, and start from scratch. And the fact that they're still playing bowl games is ridiculous. The fact that, again, to me, I think my biggest problem is the rankings. Because you're not ranking the old AP style anymore. That was to determine 1 versus 2 and to have kind of your weekly shoots and ladders. But if you are being honest, go and looking at actual advanced metrics, looking at what sports books do, like who would be a favorite on a neutral site? You can't tell me that Boise should be the number 3 seed in this tournament. Clemson should be there. You can't tell me that Penn State on any advanced metric would be ranked ahead of Ohio State. They should be in that 8-9 game, not Ohio State. So that, to me, that's my biggest problem. They're going to fix the first round bye stuff, especially the fact that Boise not only got it, but got the third.
Yeah.
Like they're going to fix that. But none of this really matters, Chad, until they fix the way that they rank these teams. And you can't do it the way you've been doing it for 100 years because it's a different system now.
All right, when we come back, we're here at Spirit Mountain Casino for the kickoff to the college football playoff. We're going to be joined by the sportsbook manager, Justin Ballinger. We'll peel back the curtain and get an idea of how the book manager thinks about the games. We'll talk about the matchups. We'll find out where the money is at, and we'll go inside the scene. Justin Myers, Chad Doing. We're live here at Spirit Mountain Casino on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, Chad Doing and Justin Myers, and very happy to welcome to the show for the first time a guy that I talk to regularly when I come down here, and he's always very hospitable. It's the sportsbook manager, Justin Ballinger. Justin, thanks for having us, man. It's great to be down here.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for coming out. We're really excited to have you here as well.
Yeah, I think the most important thing for people to understand, and you and I talk about this, that a lot of people love college football, but the Oregon Lottery does not offer college sports to be able to wager on, but yet you guys do here at Spirit Mountain, and I would imagine that that's a massive draw for you guys here at the casino.
Yeah, absolutely. Both football and basketball alike, just to be able to have, and with Oregon and Oregon State being so close to us, it's nice because you're almost, we're right there in the action, and it's just a great kind of different feeling than pros.
And take us behind the curtain. When it comes to sports gambling, where does football rank compared to every other sport?
Football is king. It's always going to be king. And it's funny, for where we're located, college and pro are actually kind of a 50-50. I don't know, some days college is king, some days NFL is king, but football definitely takes the cake, over events even like March Madness, are a distant third there.
Do you think that's because of so many people that grow up in the state, go to either Oregon or Oregon State, and they naturally are college football fans?
I do, actually. Personally, coming from California where I grew up, there's just so many schools, so many teams and things to root for. You don't see the kind of dedication that you see up here directly towards Oregon or Oregon State, and it's very cool to see.
I know we got the college football playoff starting tonight, but still a bye for Oregon. What's this run with the number one team in the country being just a handful of miles down the road? What's that been like for you guys, having the number one team in the country and now the number one seed in this playoff?
Yeah, it's been electric. The entire season, it's kind of been building on itself. I will admit, a lot of the Oregon fans, they watched that Idaho game week one, and they took their foot off the gas a little bit after that. But no, a couple games, after the Oregon State game, they started getting it rolling, and it's just been kind of this plague all season that's just been building into the playoffs here.
How much action have you gotten on Oregon throughout the course of the season, and now with the playoff, future bets to win the national championship?
Oh, it is Oregon versus the world for us. Yeah, it's pretty lopsided, but you have two reasons really this year. One, you bet with your heart, obviously, if you're an Oregon fan, but they actually, they really look the part, so I don't blame you for doing so.
It's interesting as a manager of a sportsbook, I would imagine, because you have teams you like, you have games you watch, but your interest is different than maybe a sports fan that comes in that might be a Duck fan that's got money on the Ducks. You're looking at the best interest of the sportsbook, right? How does that work for you as you get ready for a college football Saturday or an NFL Sunday?
Yeah, it's kind of it's one of the things where you obviously, you want to make money for the casino and on your side of things, but you also you want your guests to have a good time. You want the train to keep going, so guests are still coming in there, and they're something to look forward to with their team still playing. So it's a little bit of a balancing act, I'd say, but a lot of the times it's just fun, fun being in this environment.
So we're here in this beautiful sports book, and I know Chad mentioned it because you can obviously bet in person. You got the kiosk, but I'm a phone guy. I like betting on my phone. I've downloaded the app now that I am here. But what does it entail in terms of betting here on the property with your phone mobile?
Yeah, so due to the way Oregon has legalized everything, our phone app is structured to be working here on property. However, if you want to come out for the entire weekend and I don't know, maybe you had a little too much fun the night before and you're in bed till 10 a.m. The games start at 9 a.m. You can still place wagers from, your bed. If you're grabbing food, if you're walking the casino floor. So you're always able to place wagers, at least in that regard.
What is the process if someone comes in and they're new to sports betting but they want to place a wager down? Obviously, you can walk up to the counter. What's the process for using the kiosk machines that you have compared to coming to the counter? What does someone need to do?
Yeah, so the only difference really between the counter and the kiosk is the kiosk, they require a Players Club card, our Coyote Club. The nice thing about the kiosks is, if we have a big line at the counter or there's people waiting, you can sit there on the kiosk, you can build 15-team parlays, you can check all the futures that we have open. It kind of gives you an insight into every available bet that we actually have, and, it's your preference where you want to actually place the bet.
Yeah, we're talking with Justin Ballinger, the sportsbook manager here at Spirit Mountain Casino, getting ready for the kickoff to the college football playoff. how big are fight nights? Because I've been to other casinos like down in Vegas and stuff on a fight night with the UFC or with big boxing matches. They're monstrous. How big do you guys do it for that? And do you have all the different fights that come on?
Yeah, fight nights are honestly, you have the Super Bowl. You look at those kind of crowds. Fight nights are probably second. It is electric in here. It's standing room only. We make sure we have every UFC pay-per-view event. We have the bigger boxing events as well. And then if it's not a pay-per-view, we have every UFC fight night as well. And it's very fun in here.
Are you big on the UFC, Justin?
I dabble every once in a while. If it's a big, I still remember being like in high school and renting like the first year with Hoist Gracie,
yes,
and Ken Shamrock, old school wise. But every once in a while, if there's a big fight or a big event, I'll check it out.
I would imagine that just like football teams, that people have their fighters that they love and they like to wager on them, right? Is that how it works with the UFC?
Yeah, it's funny. There's I'm personally not the biggest UFC guy, but we'll have guests come in and I've been following this fighter. His last 9 fights. He's going to be doing this and this. This is what he's looking for the knockout, and it's interesting to you actually almost you're handicapping a person there.
Yeah, that's great. The other thing that's cool about the sports book, I've been to different places in Vegas and around the country. This is a Vegas-style sports book, meaning plenty of seating with cushy seats. You've got your stadium bar right next to the casino, and you got 10 Barrel Brewing, which is right across the way. So this is a place where you can either get something to eat at 10 Barrel or the bar, or they can deliver food to your seat, but you can hang out all day in the sports book watching games and placing your bets and just hanging out.
Yeah, all day long. The bar's open late, 10 Barrel's open late. The drink servers are here all night. It's a great time, and as long as we got live games on, we'll make sure that they're on the TVs for you.
I think that's terrific. All right, let's talk about some of the first-round matchups. Let's start with the game tonight. I think the latest line that Justin gave me that you guys have is Notre Dame -6.5 at home against Indiana. What are your thoughts on this matchup, and where's the money going? What are people doing with this first game?
Yeah, it should be an interesting one. The whole upstart Indiana this year is something new and different, and it's nice to have some of the non-traditional football powers in there. For tonight, though, we're a little heavier on the Notre Dame side of things, around 60% there. The number did open at 7.5 though, and it's down to 6.5. And I've heard that the weather out there might be pretty nasty tonight, so that could be weather driven on that number there.
Yeah, we're excited about that to see. We've always wondered, like, if you get some of these teams, not so much with Indiana, but teams from the South who now have to go and play up north, like at Penn State. Now we're going to have weather be a part of that. We're excited about the campus site opportunities to see what that's going to look like in college football.
Yeah, that's so awesome, and it gives the students and fans of those teams a chance to get to see your team one more time in a game that really matters before they're sent off to the neutral sites.
One of the other interesting things I think about this playoff is you've got SMU in there, you've got Indiana in there, Boise State gets a bye. Even though Texas Clemson is still playing, like, what has it been like in terms of the action, in terms of maybe some of the non-traditional powers in this tournament?
Yeah, it's kind of funny in that regard. As the year went on, every time the season starts, you get your Alabamas, you get your Ohio States, Texas, Georgia, Oregon. And this year, I think because there were so many non-traditional teams, it took a while for people to catch on. We weren't taking a ton of Indiana or SMU bets until mid-November, when it's like, okay, maybe these teams are actually for real and have a chance this year. So it's added a new dynamic for sure.
All right, the next game, Justin, is tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock on TNT. You're going to get SMU at Penn State. Like you mentioned, it's going to be up there at State College, so it should be a great environment with the Penn State fans, a whiteout. What's the latest line on this game, and then where's the money going so far on Penn State and SMU?
Yeah, so we currently are at Penn State is favored by 8.5 points. That's actually where it's opened. It's stayed flat there all week. This is actually our most lopsided game of the 4. We have seen a lot of Penn State action coming in, and that might go back to what I just spoke about. People might not just haven't seen SMU very much, or we don't know much about SMU, and so Penn State is lopsided there, but we'll see what happens. Should be a good game.
The only game that I think weather's probably not going to be a factor is in Austin, and you've got in that game, two powerhouse, at least name brands in college football, Clemson and Texas, but the biggest line sitting there at 12.5. And I know Clemson has kind of backdoored their way into the college football playoff with that win of the ACC. But what's it been like in that game? Because that seems like a monster line at 12.5.
Yeah, my first instincts, when you see playoffs and you see a spread like that is, isn't it going to be a close, good game? So we'll see what the odds makers, how right they are on that one, but. Yeah, that's going to be a great one, too, just having the two traditional powers. We'll get plenty of orange out there for that and see what happens.
All right, the other game that Duck fans are taking big interest in is the game is going to be tomorrow night at 5. You got Tennessee at Ohio State. The winner of that game will meet Oregon in the Rose Bowl. What's the latest line on that one, and where are you seeing the action go on that?
Yeah, so similar to the Penn State game in a sense that it opened at 7.5. We're still at 7.5. It hasn't moved. We actually are getting a little more action on Tennessee in this regard, in this one though, and I think you see the 8 and 9 seed, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when the playoff bracket came out, it was like Tennessee might be the 8, Ohio State might be the 8, so. You're going to favor, obviously, the team playing at home, but I think in most people's eyes that's probably the best matchup of the weekend.
No question.
So,
who do Duck fans prefer? Would they prefer Tennessee?
I think if you put them in a room with nobody else and true serum, they want Tennessee.
I agree with that.
You agree with that, Justin?
I mean, when you beat a team once, you kind of hope you don't see that team again. So, I would lean Tennessee if I had to answer there.
I know also tomorrow there's a handful of NFL games, which is crazy that's how the schedule came out with 3 big, massive college football playoff games, but a handful of NFL games. I'm just curious this season because we've seen what has happened with the Chiefs and the fact that they maybe haven't covered a ton, but they keep winning. Who's been the hot team from a betting standpoint so far this season in the NFL?
Well, be interesting to see if they get derailed a little bit with all the injuries, but the Detroit Lions have just been, and
they're like the people's choice, aren't they?
Yes, people's choice. They were so bad for so long. People really don't have anything bad to say about them. A lot of likable players, likable coach. I'd say Detroit's probably the team that is the most, the newest up-and-coming team that we see the most action.
So does that mean you've got more futures on Detroit to win the Super Bowl because of that, or?
Yeah, we do actually have quite a bit on Detroit. We have quite a bit on the Chiefs, but that's kind of, at this point just out of respect. You don't want to bet against the champ until they actually lose. So, I mean, Detroit, I would say you'd throw Buffalo in there as well.
Yeah.
And they're kind of,
next to the Lions, the next people's choice.
Right. I was going to say they're kind of a team that no one has much bad to say about either.
Yeah.
So it's good. Hopefully we'll have a nice family fun Super Bowl then.
Yeah, we're weird like that as sports fans where we have teams we hate, but then the teams that have like 4 Super Bowl losses, or a team like Detroit that's been awful forever, we almost have a special place in our heart for teams like that. The underdog, right?
Right. And it's like if it's not my team, I hope it's that team then.
Do you get a large number or maybe a larger number of bets on the Seahawks since they're regional?
Yeah, we see a lot of Seahawks. As Washington's legalized their sports betting stuff, we don't necessarily see as much as we had in the past. We do see a ton of Niners action as well, just being West Coast. And then now with the Ducks, quarterbacks just multiplying here in the NFL, Broncos and Chargers we're both getting a ton of action on this year with Bo Nix and Justin Herbert.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. It was nice to see the 2 ex-Ducks go head-to-head last night. Being a smaller sports book, have you noticed, do you get any sharps that come in that are winning maybe a larger number of bets than the regular group that comes in? Do you have that from time to time?
I mean, from time to time, it's pretty cyclical in a sense. People get hot, people get cold, and you kind of see that on all the different levels. At least out here at Spirit Mountain, we're not going to get 100 guys walking in Vegas style with duffel bags, throwing their way too much down. But no, it's kind of up and down for everyone, and you just hope you're on the up more than the down.
Or can I assume that parlays are by far the most popular style of bet for people in the book?
Absolutely, yeah. Parlays, can't get enough of them.
Yeah. And what about props? You guys have almost an unlimited number of props each and every week. How do props do for you guys?
Yeah, props are great. We have, for an example, for an NFL game, you can bet on team totals. You can bet on, first half, second half. You can bet on certain players, who's going to score touchdowns, rushing yards.
Do you have in-game wagering?
We do. We have in-game live wagering on our kiosks, which is new to us for this football season. We have pretty much every game as it's going. And so, again, as long as you have a Coyote Club card, you're able to live wager freely at the kiosks.
Now, Justin, didn't you get punked on a parlay last night?
Yeah, half a reception. Half a reception. Needed Herbert to hit the tight end one more time.
Hey, how many gambling stories do you get from some of the people that come in and be like, I can't believe it, half point?
I don't know if I would need to work anymore if I, the amount of times I was one away, and but that's part of the draw. It is gambling, and I think that's what brings people back for more, is that excitement and that rush.
Now, you came up here. You said you've been here for about 4.5 years. You came up from Vegas. You were at Mandalay Bay. What's the charm of coming from a big Vegas-style casino to something that's a little more intimate like Spirit Mountain? How's that experience been for you?
Yeah, it's been great. It's great in a sense that, in Vegas, it's a tourist destination. So you might only see, a guy one time in your whole life. Here at Spirit Mountain, we have a great group of, regular guests. We get to know them, have conversations with them. The crew's much smaller. We're much more tight-knit together. It's just, I guess, more of a sense of a community than Vegas.
And so what, through a sportsbook manager's eyes, like when you get the numbers for the day, like what are some of the things you're looking at when you first see the board for the day's action?
Yeah, well, obviously, the end goal here is, of course, to profit money. So a lot of, people always say, well, aren't you just trying to go 50-50 on, every game based on where the money's coming in? And that's true to an extent. You'll always consider things like the future wagering, like, if we lose a bunch on this team down the road, maybe we don't need to necessarily adjust the line so much on a single game today.
Yes.
Things like that. There's a few different, tactics and strategies you can apply there, but...
Now, based on the market and the liquidity in the market, does that change, like, the max amount you might take in on one particular game or not, depending on what the market is?
Yeah, absolutely. There are plenty of times where we will be looking at the Vegas casinos. We'll be watching what they're doing. And we just sometimes we just want to make sure that we're staying with the group there.
So based on what you told me, then, so like you want Oregon to do well, but not maybe incredibly well, right? Is that how it works? Maybe you don't want to say, but
I don't know how much I can tell now. No, I'll say this. I hope Oregon plays in the national championship game.
Yes, okay, that makes sense. I got you. But you said that last year, too. I mean, this is a tribe, obviously, with Spear Mountain. Like, you probably had a lot of action on the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Chiefs, when I came out here, teams like Chiefs and at the time, the Redskins, who are now the Commanders, and there is kind of just that sense of,
tribal support.
Exactly. So couple that with, the best quarterback playing football nowadays, and 3 Super Bowls in 5 or 6 years, so it's Chiefs are a very attractive team out here.
I see a pretty sweet golf simulator over there. I'm surprised Chad hasn't wandered over there quite yet. And I watched the showdown a couple of days ago in Vegas with Bryson.
It was awesome.
And Brooks and Rory and Scotty. And I know that it's the Pacific Northwest and we're hunkered down into kind of our hibernation right now. But I can still I can squint and I can see Augusta, on the future. What's that like having a golf simulator and maybe a big tournament here?
Yeah. So actually, if any of you were out here last year for the Masters, we did do a putting contest. This year we have 4 Topgolf Swing Suite simulators that have been put in.
That's awesome.
And we can do, we could pick the 12th hole at Augusta and do, a putting contest there. We could do a long drive contest. In addition to just, contests, they have 30, 40 different courses. All the PGA National courses are on there, along with like Pebble Beach. And in addition to golf, you can also play. They got hockey, they got football, they got zombie dodgeball. They got soccer. So there's a few different games you can play on these simulators in addition to golf.
That's great. It's Justin Ballinger, the sportsbook manager here at Spirit Mountain Casino. Thank you so much, man. I'm excited for the college football playoff. This is a big time, but thanks for joining the show, buddy. You're the best.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming out. Really appreciate it.
All right, we'll keep things rolling. Justin Myers and Chad Doing here at Spirit Mountain Casino for the kickoff to the college football playoff. Notre Dame and Indiana coming up at 5, and you've got the Rip City Drive on 620 Rip City Radio. All right, Chad Doing and Justin Myers live at Spirit Mountain Casino for the kickoff to the college football playoff. Largest sports book in the state of Oregon and the best place to get down on college action. We should probably give a shout-out to your beautiful wife who is at home sick today.
Yeah.
So you hand-delivered soup before you made your trip down here.
Yeah, I gave her soup. I gave her some NyQuil. I gave her some saltine crackers. I said, I'll see you in a couple of hours. I'm heading to the casino, but I'm heading here to work at least.
Yeah, you're here working, so that's a good thing. It's great to be with you, my friend. I want to go through each of the 4 matchups, not for an in-depth study, but just to get your quick take on each game, starting with Indiana and Notre Dame, who will kick off at 5. What do you think is the key in this game?
I think it's going to be quarterback play. Because I know we talked about it off the air a little bit. There's really a handful. It's Dylan Gabriel. I think it's Levitt. That's about it. Maybe a little bit of Will Howard, but not really at the last time we saw him. There's not a lot of quarterbacks you can trust.
Yeah.
And it's weird because it's the first college football playoff, so we don't quite know what are the trends going. I think it's going to be all about turnovers. Right? Teams that limit the turnovers are going to have – I mean, I know that's kind of a basic answer, but I do think that's going to be a huge deal. It's who can limit turnovers, who can limit those crazy big mistakes. And I like Indiana. I don't know why. The only thing is, if it wasn't touchdown Jesus up there and it wasn't the gold domes on their heads, like Notre Dame and Indiana are, I think, kind of evenly matched up. Both pretty good football teams. Both ain't played nobody. You know, I think Notre Dame's getting an advantage because A, being at home, and B, just for name recognition. I love Cignetti's attitude. I like the way he kind of has his team playing on the edge, and I kind of like Indiana tonight.
Okay, well, I think you brought up the good point about mistakes. What I'm curious about is, Indiana with that step up in class to take on Ohio State in Columbus a few weeks ago. They weren't prepared for that. They had never been in that type of situation. And as a result, they crumbled under the pressure, and we saw some mistakes, especially on special teams. What I'm wondering is that with that experience, now going into Notre Dame, my guess is they'll be better prepared. And you're right, the quarterback play is going to be critical. Both these teams want to run the football, and I think whoever wins that battle at the line of scrimmage with the run and can limit the mistakes. But I just want to see if Indiana is better at dealing with the pressure of a big-time road game against a big-time opponent.
Because that's an interesting point, right? Because we talk about the lack of experience, but nobody really has experience. First-round playoff game at home. We've never seen. So I guess you're right. You do kind of go back to big games. Yeah. Who's played in these big games? Who's played in the pressure-packed situations? But I mean, I go by the head coach, and I like Cignetti. I like his attitude, and I like the way his team takes on his attitude. And I don't think they're going to walk in to Notre Dame Stadium and be in awe of touchdown Jesus.
Yeah, now I love SMU's story, but I do think tomorrow morning it's going to be very difficult for them because here's what I know about Penn State. They don't lose games that they're supposed to win, but their front seven is about as good as it gets. And I just think with the crowd noise and with their ability to put pressure on the quarterback, that I think that's going to make a long day for the SMU offense and Jennings at quarterback. I just don't see a pathway for victory for SMU.
I don't see it at all. As a matter of fact, I'm surprised this isn't the biggest line of the weekend. Now, maybe SMU, again, is got something for us because it doesn't have a name recognition. But let me throw this out to you real quick. And I apologize in advance to young Brendan, who's going to be listening to this. But think about what the Pac-12 could have been, Chad. Think about, for a moment, SMU was rumored to come to the Pac-12, and Oregon in the Pac-12, and ASU, who's also in the playoff, coming to the Pac-12, and maybe potentially Boise State coming to the Pac-12. You could have had four of the teams that are in this 12-team playoff were at one point rumored to come to the Pac-12. It didn't have to die.
They blew it,
especially with SMU. And you know what? It's as much my fault as anybody because I kind of looked down my nose like, okay, you're gonna replace USC with SMU. Well, SMU's got 11 wins, and they're in the playoffs. So what do I know?
Yeah,
but I'm with you. I think Penn State at home. It's gonna be freezing cold. It's also going to be. I mean that crowd is as good of a crowd as any, and they're going to be pumped up because think about the recent history of Penn State, which is close but no cigar. You're good. You're really good. But you're not.
I just think this is going to come down to scoring. Clemson has struggled to score points all year, and the problem is they're going to play Texas, who's got one of the best defenses in the country. I just don't know if they're going to be able to score enough to win the game. But on the flip side, Quentin Ewers does not strike fear into me as a quarterback. He's not dynamic. So I think a low-scoring game that's going to be very physical. But I think Texas defense is going to shine through. How do you see this one?
Here's what's going to be interesting. Will Sark bow to the pressure because he's hearing it.
Yeah.
You know he's feeling it. They want Manning in there. They want Arch Manning in there taking snaps because not only is he a Manning, he brings a running element that Quinn Ewers doesn't have. I mean, it's weird that Arch Manning he's fast. He's not like Peyton and Eli. He's fast.
He's mobile.
Like his grandpa. And so I'm wondering, does Sark bend to the pressure that he's feeling, or does he stick with the dance partner that got him there in Quinn Ewers? That one's going to be interesting. And the other part of it is, as we're sitting here in this sports book, if you would have asked me what's maybe the closest matchup, I don't know, Clemson with the win, and Texas didn't look great in that second, 12.5. Somebody knows something I don't know.
All right, real quick, Ohio State, Tennessee. Do you look at this as that defensive line for Tennessee against Ohio State's offensive line and the injuries they've got?
Yeah, 100%. And will Ohio State make the adjustments that they refused to make in the Michigan game? The Michigan game, Ryan Day was almost daring Michigan. We are going to out-tough them. You're faster than them. You have better athletes than them. They might have the best athletes in the country. Tennessee wants to ugly it up, too, just like Michigan did. Will Ryan Day learn his lesson? That's going to be the huge key in that game.
All right, we'll come back, and when we do, we'll focus in on the Oregon Ducks and the season they've had, and I want to get Justin's take on that because the Ducks, number 1 seed and have a chance to win a national championship. We'll focus in on the Ducks. We're live here at Spirit Mountain Casino for the kickoff to the college football playoff. The biggest sports book in the state of Oregon, and your place to come and get down on the college action. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad Doing. All right, Chad Dooling and Justin Myers live here at Spirit Mountain Casino for the kickoff to the college football playoff. First game's coming up at 5, Indiana and Notre Dame. And then we'll have a triple header tomorrow, which is great. And Spirit Mountain Casino is awesome because they got the biggest sports book in the state of Oregon, and it is the place where you can come down and get in on the college action. You cannot do that through Oregon Lottery, so get down to Spirit Mountain Casino and join us. And if you come down, come up and say hi because I've got some Oregon Duck prizes that I would love to hand over to you. Eric Larson, Director of Marketing from Spirit Mountain Casino, will join us coming up in 20 minutes. Justin Myers is with me, and I want to talk about the Oregon Ducks, who are in the middle of or towards the end of one of their greatest seasons in school history, unbeaten and number one seed in the college football playoff. But this year has been fascinating because it got off to a slow start, and I was telling people, hey, just be patient. It's going to be okay.
You're telling me. When you mean people, you mean me.
Yes.
Crazy people like me.
They're going to be fine because you got new players coming in. You're transitioning to a brand-new quarterback in Dylan Gabriel. And then what I love about Dan Lanning and staff, you're seeing the growth with the staff because week by week by week, they've gotten better on both sides of the football. So I think the coaching has been there. Mm-hmm. And then now, more than ever, a more sturdy team at the line of scrimmage. So what are your thoughts on, the way that this season has played out, where it's been a slow climb to get to the point where they're playing as well as anyone in the country?
Well, a couple of things. You hit it on the head. When you think about the new era of college football and you're going to deal with transfers, that's going to take time. It just is. And you've seen for a long, long time in the old system when guys couldn't transfer and move around, you would know really from week one kind of what you had. And very rarely did you see teams get better week by week by week. But you see it in the NFL all the time, right? You get you bring in a couple of free agents, you get maybe a couple of changes here, maybe a different coordinator there, and it takes some time. In the NFL, you've got that ability. In the college, you didn't. Well, now Oregon's kind of done that, but they've also done what nobody else in America has been able to do, which was their clunker games didn't cost them a win. Now, Boise State was a clunker of a game. Now, Boise's good. Don't get me wrong, but Oregon turned the ball over in that fourth quarter and kind of gave them chances, and their clunker game didn't cost them one. Had a bit of a clunker game at Wisconsin. Really kind of had to scratch and claw, and didn't cost them a game there. Whereas everybody else in the country who was playing at that high level, their clunker game ended up with a loss. In the win-loss column. So I think that's a huge thing for Oregon. But you're right. Just the fact that you are going to have to deal with this. This is a reality now. You want to play big boy football, you have to go out and you have to work the transfer portal as well as high school. And NIL is a factor, and getting guys here and losing guys there. And that's going to be Dan Lanning's, that's going to be his secret sauce is how well he can bring a team together in a handful of months where – in the past, Chad, that's taken years.
Yeah.
It takes years.
And when you talk about bringing a team together, what you mean is that basically for a lot of these schools, you're fielding essentially a brand new team every year because of all the turnover with the portal and players coming in and out. But what I love about Oregon this year is versatility, right? Look at the Michigan game. Wasn't a great offensive game, but they shut down the Michigan run, and the Ducks were able to run the football, control the line of scrimmage, make a couple of plays late, they win the game. Or you flip over to the Big Ten title game where Penn State had a great game plan. They came in prepared, and that ended up being a higher scoring game, so they put the throttle in the offense. This Ducks team can win in a variety of different ways, more so than any Duck team I've seen in my lifetime out here.
Every great Oregon team, other than this one, has had one exceptional part of it, whether that was the Chip Kelly years that they would run faster than everybody else and that blur offense and just defenses couldn't handle it and they would just score. Whether it was a couple years later with Marcus Mariota. He was an exceptional special player that you had to factor in. Even a year ago with Bo Nix. Like that, it was clear, like Oregon was run through Bo Nix and run through that offense. This year, this is as balanced and as complete of an Oregon team as I can remember because, like you said, not only are they winning games, both on offense and on winning huge games, winning monster games. You look at everything they needed to do to beat Ohio State at home, everything that they needed to do to beat Michigan in the Big House, everything they needed to do to win that Big Ten championship game, and it's a different team each and every time, and that's why. Depending on what happens these next 5 weeks in this playoff, but looking back, this is one of the greatest Oregon teams of all time. It's weird because it's not quite recognized because there's still so much further to go.
Yes, potentially 3 more games to go.
Yeah.
You brought up this point before the show began today. will Oregon Duck fans look at this team differently if they go out and lose the first playoff game to Ohio State?
For a couple of reasons why. One is, because every great Oregon team has played for or been in the discussion for the national championship, right? Especially in 2014 and in 2010 when they did play for a national championship. But the other thing is, and this isn't a knock, but it's just a reality, is that you don't have a full career of credibility built up with Dylan Gabriel. Oregon fans love Dylan Gabriel, and this season would be nothing compared to what it is without him. But he's a one-year wonder.
Yeah.
He's a guy that came in, and it's unbelievable what he has been able to do, because you know how long it takes for quarterbacks to develop trust and to kind of earn the locker room, and he seemed to do it right away. But if they lose this Rose Bowl, what's Dylan Gabriel's legacy look like? He's only the 5th player in Oregon history, Chad, to be sitting in New York when they hand out that Heisman Trophy. Only 5
That's a
in the
big deal.
history of this program. And so I'm wondering what his legacy might be. And then do you start hearing the whispers of, so Dan Lanning won the Big Ten, but can he win the big game? Because we know what happened last year. We know what happened the year before. So there's a lot riding on the Rose Bowl and beyond in terms of legacy for this team.
Who are the 5 guys? So Dylan Gabriel,
Yep.
Bo Nix,
Boom.
Joey,
Was there.
Marcus,
Marcus won it. Michael James, 2010.
Michael James. He's the other guy. That's a pretty good elite group right there.
Yeah. But to think in 100-some years of Oregon football, in the modern era of Oregon football, you can argue, did it start in 89, did it start in 94, did it start in 99? But in the last 25 to 30 years, there's only been 5 guys.
Wait a second.
And Gabriel's one of them.
Aren't you one of the idiots that thinks it didn't start in 94?
What's that?
You don't think it started with the pick?
No, it 100% started with the
Okay, good.
pick.
I'm just making sure. Someone tried to run that nonsense by me once.
You could stretch it. To 89 with Bill Musgrave and that Poulon Weed Eater Independence Bowl in Shreveport, Louisiana. But no, it started in 94. Okay. Ironically enough, Oregon heading to Pasadena, playing Penn State, who they just beat in the Big Ten Championship in the Rose Bowl, which they're going to be playing in on New Year's Day.
All right. Is this team good enough to go through the gauntlet that they potentially face?
I think so, because of what we said. They are a complete football team. I don't know if there's another complete football team in the country. And that's not saying the other teams aren't going to be able to play their best and beat them, especially, like you said, with the fact that they're going to be playing in Pasadena, in Dallas, and in Atlanta, and the potential opponents they might be. But I think of all the teams that I think have a defense that can make up for a tough offensive day, have an offense that can make up for a defense like against Penn State, I think Oregon's the one team in the country that can do that.
Yeah, the only knock I can really put on Oregon is that they were the beneficiaries of a weaker Big Ten this year, meaning their schedule, if you look at it from top down, they played Ohio State. That was a legitimate win, arguably the best win of the season. And then they played Penn State, which is they're good, but I don't consider them elite like I do the top-level teams like Georgia. So outside of that, they just beat up on some bad competition. I just don't know how they're going to respond to the challenge when you line up and face teams like Texas and Georgia because they're so physically dominant.
It's one of the funny things about college football is if I would have shown you a schedule, I don't know, 10 years ago, it's like Oregon's going to be playing Ohio State, and they're going to play Penn State on a neutral site, and they got to go to Michigan, and they got to go to Wisconsin.
They're losing one of those games, at least.
At least. And that's a gauntlet. Yeah. Holy cow. And this year's like, well, Wisconsin's down. Michigan's way down. As crazy as it sounds, because I agree with you, I don't think Penn State was at that level. But, Chad, Penn State was number 3 in the country when they beat them.
Yeah.
Like, they were the number 3 team in the country on a neutral site. Now, we talked about earlier in the first hour, the rankings are not accurate.
Yeah,
they're an old, antiquated, outdated system, but that's still the number 3 team in the country they beat.
But the one thing I can say to compliment them, because no one else in the country did this, after their non-conference schedule, they had a bye. They went 8 straight weeks, game to game to game to game in the Big Ten, and they won every single game and didn't have another bye week until right before the Washington game. So the fact that you can go through that type of gauntlet without a break when no one else can do that, and you don't stumble along the way, that tells me something about your mettle, right? Am I overstating that?
No, I think you're right, because you could tell by that Wisconsin game
Fatigue.
that they were getting a little bit beat up and especially going on the road. And I'm not going to talk about the travel because I think that was a smidge overrated, but they were traveling as more than other Big Ten schools.
Well, yeah, they're not flying coach like you and I.
I understand. That's why I said I won't want to make too big of it. But it is something I think by the time they got to that Wisconsin game. But that's where depth comes in. That's where recruiting comes in. Here's what's interesting. I'll flip this on you because we talk about the tweaks to the playoffs. Are they going to have to make tweaks to the Big Ten and the SEC because they're just such big conferences? When you look at who Ohio State played this year and the way that they did not play in the same Big Ten that Indiana did. Now, I know they played each other, but Ohio State played at Oregon. I believe played at Penn State, played Michigan at home, had Indiana in there. It was a tough, Ohio State had a gauntlet, whereas Oregon, they didn't play in the same Big Ten. They got Indiana, they got Illinois, they got Maryland. They got to go on the road to Purdue. And when you have 18 teams in a conference, even though it's all under the same that's not the same Big Ten.
Yeah,
it's not the same schedule. Same in the SEC. What Georgia had to do this year versus what Texas had to do this year was worlds apart.
Yeah, I think here's the great part about the situation with the seeding and the way it sets up for Oregon. And Duck fans have been dreaming about a national championship. If you go through potentially Ohio State, Texas, and Georgia, and you win the national championship, then all of a sudden you can make an argument it's the greatest run in the history of college football, and you're the undisputed champ without question, and no one can take that away from you for the rest of your life.
Yes.
You could celebrate it forever.
100%. If you get Ohio State or Tennessee, likely Texas, but who knows, but likely Texas, and even if, say, Arizona State upsets Texas, right, that's a we don't hold it against teams in the college basketball Final Four when they have to face an upset team, and then you got to go play on the East Coast in Atlanta, maybe against Georgia. That's a run.
That's a run.
That's a run.
It doesn't get any better than that, and you're going through big college football brands to get to where you want to be.
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
What more could you ask for? An easier path.
An easier path. Penn State's path, maybe.
Well, and that's what I think. Do you think,
maybe Boise State's path?
Do you think that they'll adjust the seating next year, or are they going to wait till 26?
Here's my guess is that, and I think maybe it'll be determined on the outcome of some of these games. But if the Final Four is Oregon, Texas, Georgia, Penn State, right? If that's the Final Four, I don't know if they tweak anything because that's what they want. But if there's an upset in there, if Boise, God forbid, upsets Penn State in that second round game, then I think what you'll see is the conference champions get the automatic berth to the playoff.
Yeah.
And then they reseed 1 through 4 determined by the committee. And they get the buys.
All right, Chad Doing, Justin Myers here at Spirit Mountain Casino, the Northwest premier entertainment destination for the kickoff to the college football playoff. Largest sports book in the state of Oregon, and your place to get down on the college action. When we come back on the Rip City Drive, we're going to be joined by Eric Larson, the director of marketing here at Spirit Mountain Casino, and we'll keep things rolling. Kickoff with Indiana and Notre Dame coming up at 5. All right, Rip City Drive, Chad Doing and Justin Myers. We're here for the kickoff to the college football playoff at Spirit Mountain Casino, the Northwest premier entertainment destination, and your place to wager on college sports. The first game's coming up at 5, Indiana and Notre Dame. There's a triple header tomorrow, so it's a great time to get down and enjoy Spirit Mountain Casino. And we're joined now by the Director of Marketing, Eric Larson. And Eric, we're all excited about Oregon's run to the playoff. They're the number 1 seed. And I heard that your daughter is now going to go to Oregon. Is that true?
She is a Duck.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Congratulations.
She's part of the flock, as we say.
How excited are you about that? That's got to be thrilling.
Oh, love it. She's been to every game this year. She gets there 2.5 hours before game time, gets in the first couple rows. We were watching a game one day at home and paused the TV and yelled at my wife, "Hey, you want to come see your daughter?" She goes, "What?" And there she was, right in the middle of the screen. So, yeah, and with the Ducks this season, it's just incredible.
Does it increase like your excitement and involvement level with your daughter there, and now seeing what Oregon's doing? It's got to be even better for you.
Exactly. You know, kind of we were talking a little bit off air. I'm a Washington guy, just moved down here this past year, so it's kind of a Husky. You know, my wife's a Husky, so that was kind of my
That's a rough
hometown
transition.
team. So now my closet is all green, gold. I've got Duck shoes. I'm a big Nike guy, so yeah, it's.
Now, do you have a pair of the new Duck shoes?
I've got a pair of Duck shoes that have the year on the back. They're Nikes. I'll wear them next time. So yeah, it's.
You seen those new shoes?
I have. Yeah. Well, and then they're wearing the Kobe's. The Kobe Bryant.
Yeah, they're not
sneakers.
the cool Kobe's. So. I'm not there yet, but yeah, no, their stuff is great.
Well, you know, one thing I love about Spirit Mountain Casino is this sports book. Ever since you put it in, Eric, you know, obviously this is the one place where you can come to bet on college sports in Oregon because the lottery doesn't offer it. But this is truly Vegas style. It's big and it's open. It's got all the cushy chairs, and then you've got 10 Barrel Brewing. You got the stadium bar. Like, you can come here, hang out, get your wagers in, be able to enjoy your food, and just watch the games.
Oh yeah, no, it's fantastic. And you know, talking about wagers, we get the wager window open really early. We had 2 guys bet on Travis Hunter to win the Heisman back in August. 100 to 1. And these guys both hit. So they came in, and his $10 ticket got him $1,000. And just because he bet Travis Hunter back in August with what the line was. And so, yeah, no, we offer every sport you can think of, and it's just such a great place to come. Great food, great service, you know, everything that you need.
And I think Justin and I were talking about this, where what's cool is when you come to a sports book and there's a game on, like it changes the entire experience because you have the people and the energy and the atmosphere, and then you got the cat calls from when things aren't going the way they want it to go, you know, the guys who have money on the game and so forth, but that makes it so much more fun.
Oh, yeah. It's like watching a game in a room full of all your friends. And everybody gets along. I've been in here when it's packed and people want to yell for one team and then the other team does something and it's like, ah. And so, but everybody just has such a great time here. And, you know, if you've never wagered on sports, we have a counter here so you can come up and talk to our staff. They'll help you figure out what's a parlay, what's an over, what's an under, what do you want to bet, you know, that sort of thing. So people who might be a little nervous to get their toe into it, our staff is great and will definitely walk you through.
I know we were talking about it in the first hour with all the games in the college football playoff starting this week, especially starting tonight. But then also tomorrow you got the NFL and college football. What do we expect from an atmosphere here in the room tomorrow with the NFL going on and the college football playoff going on and random bowl games going on?
Oh yeah, no, with football it is definitely one of our highlight seasons here, and people love to come in, especially because you know you can bet on the college games here. You can't do that anywhere else in Oregon, and like you were saying, we're the premier sports book. So you get tons of people who come in. They make a day of it. You know, they'll, like you said, grab a pizza over at 10 Barrel, hang out most of the day, watch their wagers, change their wagers. They'll do prop bets, you know, kind of they'll parlay, you know, college games, pro games, that sort of thing, looking to not spend tons of money but get a huge payout if everything hits.
We're talking with Eric Larson, the Director of Marketing here at Spirit Mountain Casino. This really is a destination spot because you've got the beautiful lodge, which was recently renovated, and the rooms are spectacular. And you've got restaurant options, you got Top Golf, but this is just a minute detail, but I think it's important for people to know because it's important to me. This place is so clean, like your cleanliness and just all the details that you've taken care of when people come in from the moment they enter the parking lot to the casino and the time they leave. Like, I really think you guys have dialed it in to where you can come in and enjoy yourself in the best possible environment. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like,
No.
it really is a big deal.
No, you're exactly right. We want everybody to come in to feel welcome, to feel like they're coming home. They're coming into our home. So we keep it clean, we keep it inviting, that sort of thing. And we know that not everybody's going to enjoy the same thing. So that's why we try to offer, kind of as you touched on, a wide variety of things like Top Golf. we added that because, hey, here's some people can golf. They can also throw dodgeballs at zombies if they want, but different amenities, different food for people to try, and really just keep it clean, keep it nice. Oregon's premier gaming and entertainment destination.
All right, let's talk about Topgolf for just a moment because it's brand new to Spirit Mountain Casino. But kind of give us the layout. Like if someone knows that you have Topgolf and they love that experience, what's the process for getting down here and taking part in the action?
So you can book a bay online. You can go to our website, and they book through Yelp. And so you can reserve a bay for 1 hour up to 3 hours. And it's not just for golfers. Like I was saying last weekend at the concert, 2 guys were in 2 different bays golfing, and then here's another group playing zombie dodgeball in the other bay. And there's soccer, and there's football, and different things. And so the price is by an hour. It's $60 for 1 hour, but that's for one person or up to 6 people. So super fun entertainment. You get food in there, beverage in there. It's just a great way to hang out and have a good time.
I know you mentioned it with the sports book, and I would assume that it's probably for the entire resort here, but asking questions, because I know some people can get a little bit intimidated. They want to come in, they want to play games, they want to bet a parlay, but not quite sure what it is. You're on your phone Googling, like, how do I play? So I would assume, much like you mentioned here at the sports book, asking. People are here to help. They want to teach you and add to your experience.
You're exactly right. A lot of our staff has been here over 28 years. The property next year will be open 30 years. They're great with guest service. It's one of those things that we really preach is we love our guests. And it's like there's no such thing as a dumb question. I ask my staff stuff all the time, and they shake their head. They're like, you've been in this industry 20-plus years. But, yeah, no, if you've got a question about, craps, roulette, slots, different things. I mean, the slot machines these days are so many lines, pays. You ask them, they'll be happy to tell you. So, it's just ask, and we love to have conversations with folks.
Yeah, the service and the staff here is terrific. Now, Justin and I were talking about this. New Year's Eve is always a challenge, like, if you got family or your friends or your spouse, on what you want to do. And I've been down here multiple years for New Year's Eve celebration. This year you've got what you're calling the I think it's called Spirit Mountain and the Chocolate Factory.
Yes.
It's going to be a full theme for the entire evening. But what I love about this is that this gives you a safe place to come and enjoy the evening, take in the new year, and have a place to hang out where you're not out on the road. So what do you think about the plans for this year's Spirit Mountain and the Chocolate Factory?
Yeah, well, as you can tell by the Chocolate Factory, there's going to be lots of sweets here.
Yes.
And we go over the top in the decorations. We're going to have so many different areas for people to take selfies, enjoy themselves. We also do a dance party that's free. So for people to come, maybe they want to play the slots, maybe they don't. Maybe they just want to come out and dance. They have that option here. We'll be doing drawings throughout the night, those sorts of things. So really, again, just trying to give everybody something to do. And, what I might like to do may not be what my wife likes to do. So, but just finding something for everyone. But, yeah, New Year's Eve is going to be a crazy good time with the countdown, that sort of thing, and confetti everywhere. So really the place to be.
And one thing I like that you guys do, you mentioned the drawings, but, for people who like to play, there are benefits to being a member of the Coyote Club, where you guys do drawings each and every month for different prizes and cash, and then you have payback drawings to reward people for their play each and every month. But you guys load up the calendar with an opportunity to have extras for people to come in and win big.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. We look at that payback drawing, inviting people who've played all month to come back. We do different drawings, different days of the week, just always looking for something to reward people. So if you can't be here on a Friday night for the drawing that we're doing, well, then Tuesday, Wednesday, we're going to do a different type of drawing, or we're going to do an episodic game where you can kind of play along on a game board. So always looking for the new thing, the fun thing for everybody.
I know you mentioned En Vogue being here. Middle school Justin, very, very jealous. It wasn't here for En Vogue, but in entertainment-wise.
So don't show you the meet and greet picture.
Yeah. No. By the way, 20 years later, still cooking.
Yeah, still cooking.
En Vogue. But March 7th, Chet, Styx.
Yes.
Styx going to be in the building.
Yes.
Renegade, Mr. Roboto.
You guys do a good job of getting some good accent. And Styx, I've been watching their YouTube videos, still playing extremely well at this stage of their career.
Yeah, no, our entertainment lineup for 2025 is looking great. We're starting with Aaron Lewis, and that's already sold out. We've got a Vietnamese group coming in February. And then we've got Styx, who we just put on sale, and tickets are flying out the door. And I don't just say that as the marketing guy. Like, I saw the numbers today and was like, holy smokes. So, and we're going to keep that throughout the entire year. Every single month, we're looking to bring a new act. After Styx, we've got a comedian coming who everybody will know. And so, be on the lookout, and it's one of those things with our entertainment. It's you want to get in early or else you may not get a seat.
That's great. We're talking with Eric Larson, Director of Marketing here at Spirit Mountain Casino. Food is a big deal to a lot of people. Can you walk us through some of the different food options that are popular here in the casino so when people come down, they know if they want to stop off and get a bite to eat, this is a good place to come?
See, I thought you were just making a fat guy joke at me, but the food is tremendous here. We've got Amore, which is our high-end Italian steakhouse that's open 5 days a week, only in the evenings. Great food there, great steaks, great wine. As we know, we're definitely in wine country. We've got Mountain View Sports Bar, which kind of has your typical sports bar menu, open for breakfast and open late. We've got our food court with jalapenos and Rock Creek Grill. And then Fridays and Saturdays, we run Seafood Fest. There used to be a buffet here. Everybody's like, what happened to the buffet? And this is a great way to do it. We bring out the crab legs. We bring out the prime rib and really put out a great spread on Friday and Saturday nights for our Seafood Fest. So there's really always something, again, trying to accomplish lots of different things.
Speaking of the wine, as I was driving out here today, Chad knows this. I'm a bit of a wine snob myself, okay. And as soon as I get home, the rosé will be flowing at the Myers household. But I mean, what an advantage! Because I just right up the road, world class, not just store, the winery where they make it. How what kind of an advantage is that to being right here to where you could send a car 20 minutes and come back with world-class wines?
No, it is incredible, and we do bottle our own in-house wine. So
okay.
Next time you're here, I'm going to get a couple bottles for you guys to take home. You can't have it during the show. Professionals
yes.
here. But no, and this wine is great. It's bottled by a local vineyard or vintner, sorry. And so we have such a great selection. When people come in from out of town, they're just awe-inspired by what we have, and we work with so many different wineries. And the nice thing is, being the casino, we're so large, we're able to get some of the bottles of wine that other properties, other restaurants are not able to have, and so people come in just for that experience.
That's terrific. What's the transition been like for you, spending most of your time in Washington and coming down south and being here at Spirit Mountain Casino? What's that been like for you to be here and to be a part of this experience?
It's great. The team is phenomenal. Having been in Washington, like I was telling you guys off air, for 20 years, then to pack up everything and come to Oregon, it's been great. Such a great family atmosphere. You guys kind of hit on it when we were talking earlier. Everybody here is so nice, and that's how it is. And so you really join part of a family. We're always so excited to have people here. Almost 1,000 employees, and every single one goes through guest service training, how we want to treat our guests, and treat others how you want to be treated. And that's really our motto.
Yeah, the way I would relate it is like when I go to I've been to a Dodger game or a San Francisco Giant game, and I'm always amazed at how even the usher, when you walk in, just the friendliness and the way that they treat each person that comes in for the ball game is. And I feel the same way from, the people at the very top here all the way down to the cleaning staff, the way that your people interact. I mean, it shines through, which I think is cool.
No, thank you. And it's something we work hard on and every day. And it really becomes natural. You get people in our new higher orientation who kind of come in and they're like, really, do you walk the walk or do you just kind of talk the talk? And then when they're here, and as you guys see, we really, walk that walk and try and do it to every guest every single time.
Now, we talked about the New Year's Eve party, but you guys do a number of flagpole events throughout the course of the year into the summertime. You've done car shows and different things, but what are the biggest events that people enjoy the most throughout the course of the year?
Oh, man, that's really a hard one. They love our entertainment. Of course, people love it when they come in and we give away cars or RVs, things like that. You really see people come in. And that's really just trying to find that diversity of what we do and kind of what we can partner with and those sorts of things. One of the things, and you're going to be the first to hear it, we haven't even talked about it. We're now, and it's not official yet. So, well, it is official, but we haven't officially announced it. So
we're breaking news here on the show.
We're going to be partnering with the Trailblazers. And so we've now officially started to partner with them on some things. And so you're going to slowly start to see our name at Moda and some stuff involved with the Blazers. So we're very excited for that partnership in the years to come and what we can do with them. So, again, always looking for kind of a new audience, new way to get out there. So,
well, one of the things that you've done for years that I think is great is the big game party every year, the Super Bowl, in the event center. It's the largest Super Bowl party in the state of Oregon, but to see half the event center cheering for one team, half the event center cheering for another team, and you've got food throughout the course of the game. I mean, it really is the place to take in the big game.
Oh, that Super Bowl party is incredible. Or the big game. Shh, we can't say can't say that S word. But no, and we look to theme the menu. Like last year, was Philadelphia and KC in it, right? And so we did like Philly cheesesteak and KC barbecue. And so our team loves those challenges and loves to present something that's unique, where instead of, okay, you're just going to go slap a hot dog down or a burger or a slider, hey, let's make it like the theme of the team's playing. And so we'll do the same thing this year and have all sorts of swag and prizes. Yeah, that is definitely one of our signature events that sells out and people come out to.
What's the process if someone wants to take part in the New Year's Eve party? Do they just show up, or how does that work?
For New Year's Eve, yeah, just show on up. We're going to have a candy store, all sorts of stuff. Most of the stuff is free. Like I said, the dance party's free, that sort of thing. We'll do a toast at midnight. Big confetti cannons go off, so just such a great experience. So, the Super Bowl party, we'll post it online. People can buy tickets, just kind of like a concert and different events. So people really should be checking our Facebook page, our website, and that's where we kind of keep fresh with everything that we're doing.
What 90s act do you want him to bring in? Who you going to put a vote in for anyone?
90s, I mean.
What year did you graduate from high school?
91.
91. He's 91. Right in our wheelhouse.
I mean, what's MC Hammer doing right around now?
You can't touch him.
Maybe you can't touch him. That's true. Maybe get some Hammer time in here.
No, it's great. I love it's just cool to see, like, all the bands that we grew up with, they're still out there on the circuit getting the touring in, which is pretty sweet.
Oh, yeah. They're like, without the casinos, we wouldn't be touring like we are, and they love it. They love to come and have a good time, so.
Eric Larson, Director of Marketing here at Spirit Mountain Casino. Get down here. College football playoff kicks off tonight at 5. This is the spot to wager on college sports in the state of Oregon. Anything else you want to add in before we let you go?
Hey, just happy to have you guys here. Thank you. Anytime you guys are welcome. And, come in quick and get your duck bets in. That's what I'd say. So.
Oh, we talked to Justin earlier, and he did inform us that throughout the course of the year, like the Oregon wagers and then the duck future bets, like it's pretty heavy.
Yeah, they I'm the marketing guy, so I'm like, come and bet for the Ducks. The book, on the other hand, is like, oh, geez, you know what happens if the Ducks win? And I'm like, I want the Ducks to win. So,
yeah, he wouldn't come out and say it, but we got an idea. He goes, let's just put it this way. I hope Oregon makes it to the national championship game.
Exactly. That's why I stay on the marketing side. It's way more fun over here. So.
Yeah. Well, Eric, it's great to have you on the show. Thanks for stopping by, and thanks for having us down here. This is great.
No, thank you guys.
All right, we'll keep things rolling here on the Rip City Drive. Chad Doing and Justin Myers live here at Spirit Mountain Casino for the kickoff to the college football playoff on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, Justin Myers, Chad doing hanging out together here at Spirit Mountain Casino for the countdown to the college football playoff, which is phenomenal. I can't believe it's here, and we get the first game tonight, Indiana and Notre Dame. The other big issue in college football, Justin, right now is the NIL and the transfer portal dates, because there are no controls whatsoever. And so what I like that, like Kenny Dillingham's like my favorite coach in football right now. I just love that a young man, youngest coach in college football is I think it's helping him because he's younger and he's embracing players and he's advocating for players and he's allowing his guys who want to enter the portal to do so. And yet as long as they adhere to the team rules and the functions, they can still participate in their playoff experience, which I think is really great. But it still doesn't change the fact that there's issues right now. And I don't know what the answer is, but there's got to be a way that they can change the portal dates to where you don't have players faced with the decision on should they jump in the portal or not, and then they miss out on bowl season or the college football playoff. But I understand why players have to jump in, because when they open it up on the 28th or at the end of the season, teams are trying to make decisions on roster positions, and players who want to maybe have a better opportunity somewhere else, they're getting pressure from the coaching staff to say, hey, we need to know right now. And so it's putting players in a position where they can't finish out the year with their current team. So what is the answer in terms of being able to change the portal dates? Because the problem is they're trying to get to their new school and get admitted so they'll be available for spring ball.
You know, it's kind of funny. We talked about you've got the playoff and then you've got these bowl games. And they're trying to kind of, walk both sides of that line, and it's just not quite working. I think it's the same thing here is you have the football calendar and then you've got the academic calendar. And while we sit and we watch football, and these guys are professionals now, they're being paid, they are technically employees now, and more on that in a minute. They're also still students. They also still have to register for class on time. And while you and I would just be like, all right, well, just let them register late. Well, there's a lot of stuffy administrators sitting in some really old buildings going like, try again. No, this is when the academic calendar starts. We're not bending over backwards to football. We do it enough. That's the major hurdle in terms of the transfer portal is the football calendar doesn't match up with the academic calendar. And so these guys, if they want to move, let's talk about Penn State's backup. Penn State's backup quarterback just entered the transfer portal because Drew Aller announced that he's coming back for another year. And when you're a quarterback, especially a backup, you don't get reps like a backup running back does or a backup linebacker does. So he's going to go find another place to play, and I don't blame him one bit. But he can't play for Penn State because if he's going to go, let's say, to Missouri, Missouri's going to be like, no. You're not going to go play and roll your ankle in practice and be no good for us. So he's got to leave now. So Penn State's now going into the college football playoff with no backup quarterback.
That's a problem.
It's a problem, and I don't know how to fix it without fixing the calendar. So I think the only way to kind of fix it is to move the college football calendar back and somehow, some way, end it on January 1. Crown a national champion on January 1, and then what is now week 0 becomes week 1, and you kind of start college football in the middle of August.
And that would allow players, after the national championship is done on the 1st, to still jump in the portal and get admitted to the new school and be available for spring ball.
Yeah, because there's going to be another problem. And I talked about this on my podcast with Tyson Alger on the I-5 corridor. It didn't happen this year, but let's fast forward to next year. We know that there is going to be a group of 5 team every single year. They are guaranteed a spot most years. Most years that group of 5 team is going to be seeded 12 and facing the 5 seed, which will likely be the number 3 team in the country. Let's say you're a quarterback of a group of 5 school that makes the playoff and you're a junior. You're going to be pretty valuable in the transfer portal. Would you rather go and lose by 30 to the number 2 team or number 3 team in the country in that first round playoff, or would you rather put your name into the portal, get a big bag of NIL money like Mateer did from Washington State, and take your shot to quarterback a Power 4 school? Like, that's going to happen. We see it with coaches, right? Who's to say it can't happen with quarterbacks? That there's going to be a group of 5 quarterback that is going to have a first round matchup that is going to have to decide, do I want to jump into the portal and get my bag and get a chance to quarterback a Power 4 school, or do I wait until if you wait until this weekend? Well, Mateer's already at Oklahoma. That's a spot that's taken up. Penn State guy. I think he was visiting at Missouri. Like, spots are being taken right now, and if you're a Group of 5 guy that wants to transfer up, you might have to leave your team as a starting quarterback. It's in the playoff. Like, that's nuts, but it might happen.
Well, I'm with you on that. I think the best way to do it is probably to move the calendar up
Yeah.
and then crown a national champ on January 1st, and then you've put yourself in a position to where you can give these kids time to be able to enter the portal and make decisions about their future, but still be available for their current teams to be able to finish out a college football playoff. Now, on top of that, what's it going to take to create some controls on NIL spending, structure? Because right now it's the wild, wild west. Is this going to happen when we start the revenue sharing with the schools? Is it a matter of getting the commissioners to get together and we get a college football commissioner who's in charge of everything? What's it going to take?
Well, that statement right there that's the biggest problem that college football has. Beyond all the other stuff, the biggest problem is there's not one guy. The NFL's got Roger Goodell. Buck stops with Raj.
Yeah.
And that trickles down to everything that they do with collective bargaining and everything else. There isn't that person in college. You have to create that person. And just in football, and the rest can be controlled by the NCAA, but we know football is different. It's always been different, especially with bowl games. You have to create that guy. The other thing that I think is ultimately going to happen is you have to essentially let college football players unionize. And I'm not a legal expert. I'm just married to one. When you are a money-making entity, which these guys are, their NIL is now their business, you cannot put rules and regulations to prevent that unless, like in the NFL can, because it's collectively bargained. They're a union. They have an agreement with the league. If they didn't, NFL players can move all the – somebody – works at one coffee shop, there's nothing that says you can't work at another coffee shop down the road because it's an antitrust deal. That's the problem. So you have to create a point person, then you have to create a labor union essentially for college football players, and that labor union's got to be run by an executive, and they have to create rules and regulations that are beneficial to both teams.
And that would come from a CBA.
Yes.
Okay, so that's what we need.
You cannot create, from what I understand, again, legally, you cannot create regulations that prevent players from making the most NIL possible, because that's an antitrust problem in a capitalist society. But if you create a collective bargaining agreement, well, then you can agree on the terms and say, okay, you have transfer rules. There are you only have so many transfers, like in the NFL, right?
Yeah.
There's a free agency window. You sign a 3-year deal. You play that 3. You cut a player, they get their money. All that kind of stuff.
So really, the best thing moving forward would be to have a situation where you have a CBA and every school has a spending limit. So there's certain controls on how much schools can invest in NIL, and then you would level out the playing field a little bit more.
I think so, and then it also it creates some normalcy for both players and coaches. Because right now the players, I think, have all the advantage. I don't know if that's going to stick around, but those are only the players we hear about. There's plenty of players who are promised NIL, hop into the transfer portal, has that pulled away, and now they're kind of
stuck.
They're stuck. Their old job has been replaced. Their new job, that money's been pulled away because some booster got got money happy and started promising things that they couldn't deliver. So to protect both the players and the teams, you got to create a system that is collectively bargained and essentially create an NFL model.
All right, we'll keep things rolling here. Justin Myers, Chad Doing. We're live here at Spirit Mountain Casino for the kickoff to the college football playoff. This is the place in Oregon to wager on college sports, and it's the biggest sports book in the state of Oregon. So come down and enjoy the weekend with a game tonight, Indiana and Notre Dame, and a triple header tomorrow, along with 2 NFL games, Texans, Chiefs, Steelers, Ravens. This is your Northwest premier entertainment destination. We'll keep things rolling. We'll come back. More football when we come back. I'll get Justin's thought on Indiana and Notre Dame, which will kick off in the near future. And then we'll talk about this layout for the college football playoff. We've been waiting for so long, and finally we get it. And we're going to have campus site games, which is amazing. You got the Rip City Drive. All right, Justin, I'm taking a look at the Oregon football schedule for next season.
Yes.
So the Oklahoma State Cowboys are going to be in Eugene. I'll be taking my Pops down to that one. But I'm looking at the road games here. I think you're right. The game at Penn State might be a must-go-to, my friend.
It might be. Happy Valley, premier game that week, I believe.
Wow.
That's going to be epic.
That's going to be pretty sweet.
Because if Oregon does run the table and ends up winning the national title, and could you imagine the defending national champs who just beat you in the Big Ten championship now coming to Happy Valley in probably a whiteout or maybe a big noon kickoff, and then Penn State fans will complain because playing at noon is apparently way too early for them. But yeah, that's a bucket lister. That's an all-timer.
But of all the other road games, I would say the only other one that's really attractive would be Iowa, just because of the experience there with the Hawkeyes and their tradition. I'm not really excited about Northwestern. Rutgers, nah. Who wants to go to New Jersey? But, yeah, I would say Penn State, that's the quality road game right there.
That's the one right there. Yeah.
With a whiteout?
Likely. I mean, again, we'll see what unfolds. But if you look at the schedule right now, depending on we don't even know who's going to be playing quarterback for Oregon, but you get Montana State, Oklahoma State, who's coming off of a very bad year. You go to Northwestern, and then you get a civil war at Autzen, which, by the way, got a little spicy now with Malik Murphy going to Oregon State. They got a mobile, dynamic quarterback at Oregon State coming to Autzen Stadium. But I mean, if Oregon's 4-0, Penn State's 4-0. Going into that matchup in Week 5, that's huge. That's a huge game.
Yeah, it's a monster. You know what's great about the college football playoff with these campus site games? Like, look at the places where they're going to play this weekend. They start out tonight at South Bend.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to play tomorrow morning at State College with Penn State and SMU. Then we're going to have a game in Austin, Texas with Texas and Clemson, and they're going to finish up in Columbus. I don't know if you could ask for 4 better sites to open up the college football playoff with the expansion to 12 teams. Like, those are all 4 historical sites where any college football fan would have each of those places on their list of must-go-tos.
It's huge, and obviously the other important part for the college football playoff is those fan bases are fully bought in, are fully invested.
100%.
I think you were there. The first ever Pac-12 championship game that was at Autzen Stadium. It was Oregon and it was UCLA, and it was it was packed. And Oregon would go on and win, and they would go on to play in the Rose Bowl and win the Rose Bowl. But it was a packed game, and it was a great atmosphere. And I remember going like, this is it. This is how you do a championship game on campus. Well, then it went to Stanford for the next 2 years, and no one was there because they're not bought in and they're not invested. And it killed it. It killed the Pac-12 championship. And then old Larry Scott decided, we should play it in Santa Clara where nobody would go at 5 o'clock on a Friday.
I went to Stanford USC Pac-12 title game back in like 2014, 2015.
Yeah.
No one was there.
And no one would go because there's no investment. So not that they lucked out, but
I was at the Oregon-Arizona Pac-12 title game, too. No one was there.
No one was there. It's 5 o'clock on a Friday in the middle of the Bay Area. So the fact that you get these on-campus games at places where fans are bought in and invested to where sounds like Ohio State and Tennessee fans are fighting over tickets because Tennessee Volunteer fans got onto the secondary market and they're trying to buy out Ohio State tickets. And so therefore, like, that's what you need because that's what makes college football special, right? It's the passion. The NFL is special because it's the best football players in the entire world, and we know that. College football is special because of the atmosphere. And the atmospheres at these places with the fan bases that are bought in, it's a huge win because you could have. It's not very often, but you could have gotten, we saw how many years was Stanford really good, but no one would go to their games. You could have gotten a Stanford or a place where they just aren't fully bought in. You got 4 great spots.
I've only been to one Stanford game. I went to several when I was down there in the Bay Area, but only one time did I go where the atmosphere was superb, and it was that night game with Oregon with Mariota that the Ducks lost. That atmosphere in Stanford that night was pretty good, but that was a rarity.
It's absolute rarity. I mean, there were times they were the number 8-9 team in the country.
Well,
I couldn't sell out.
I agree with your premise because one thing that makes college football special, and it's part of the reason why I've become such a big college football fan. no matter where you go in the country, if I'm in Tempe, Arizona State's got its own flavor and its own experience and the way they tailgate and do things. If you go to Autzen in Eugene, they've got a way that they do things, and the experience is special. Austin, Texas, even if you go up to Strawberry Canyon up there with Cal, they've got a different way of doing things with their football games. Oklahoma's got a special way of doing things. Texas, all these different teams, it's unique. It's not corporate like the NFL or the NBA. You get a different vibe and a feel based on where you're at in the country and the host, college town.
I don't know if you've been watching the Hard Knocks, the in-season Hard Knocks. I've been watching it because it's the AFC North, and my beloved Steelers are a big part of it. But it's fascinating because they're covering these 4 teams. They're all the same.
Yeah.
Every practice is the same. Every meeting is the same. Everything is run like that's the NFL machine, and it works. Obviously, they're printing money over there. They're doing just fine, but everything is the same. That's how it's designed, is that every team is kind of constructed the same, so you can plug and play and move on. College football, the way Kenny Dillingham runs his program is very different than the way Dabo Swinney runs his program, and it's very different than the way Steve Sarkisian runs his program, and that's one of the things that makes college football great. I wanted to ask you, though, about Arizona State, because I've always thought, my theory on Arizona State, because everybody said, it's a sleeping giant, and my biggest, not beef, but my biggest critique of Arizona State is that the problem there is that if you don't win the game, you're not destroyed because you're still in Tempe, Arizona, and you're going down to Mill Street, you're doing just fine, right? Whereas if you're in Columbus, Ohio, and you lose the game, your week is ruined.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that Kenny Dillingham has built up a culture there, because there was no culture there.
None.
They have the best facilities, best locale, unbelievable scenery, if you know what I'm saying. Like, they've got everything and they're close to Vegas. They're close to L.A. They're close enough to Texas, right? Phoenix is a pretty good recruiting ground as well. Like, the fact that Arizona State hasn't been a major player in college football, I always thought was a culture issue. Kenny Dillingham found it.
He did.
He found it. He found the culture, and I think it had to be from a guy who's from there.
Yeah, I think that's really been the key. He is a guy who's from the Valley. He grew up and was a Sun Devil fan. He and his family would win Sun Devil awards for being the best tailgaters. He went to college there. He met his wife there. And so for him to get the opportunity to go back and lead that school, that was his dream job. You know how Dan Lanning always says, hey, everything I need's right here. Mm-hmm. That's the way that Dillingham looks at the program. But I think the other important part, too, is their new AD, Graham Rossini, is doing a heck of a job. They finally have people within the administration who buy in and are helping to invest in the sports program. But I think most importantly, when you have a recruiting base, like Arizona's got some talented players. So when you're able to suddenly pull in more players from your own state, and then you're able to be aggressive in the transfer portal, and then you're able to really open up the pipeline to get people from Texas to come up and check out the school, and then you get some early success, and then boom. But I think the other thing that helps Dillingham, too, is that young coordinator, and all of a sudden you're connected to a few legitimate quarterbacks around the country, including Bo Nix. Then all of a sudden you get some of the offensive skill players that take notice. And then you add people to your staff that also have ties to the Valley. So they don't want to jump and go anywhere else. And then you slowly start to build it. But the most important thing is, just like we see with Lanning and the same thing with Dillingham, these guys, what you see is what you get. They're not frauds. Yeah. So they're very open, and they communicate, and they're willing to have the hard conversations, but the players know that the coaches got their back.
Because I thought Dillingham would be too emotional to be a head coach. I really did. I thought this, like the passion and the emotion. It's great.
He's borderline crazy.
He's not, but it fits. It works. It works for him, and I think you hit it on that. It's because it's not fake.
It's not fake.
That's not a fake. And when he's sitting there with the crowd around him in that BYU game, screaming at the officials,
with his wife right behind him. He's just dropping F-bombs.
It is bleeping over. How are we getting all these people off the field? It's over. That's him. And I think there is also a bit of an advantage to being young in certain spots. You were at that the Big 12 championship game.
Yeah.
What coach in America pulls off that fourth down play? you have to be so reckless and not and almost dumb to an advantage of like. Every other coach in the country is like, we can't run that. If we don't get that, then all of a sudden we lose all the momentum. Then we lose. Now I'm on the hot seat. He's like, no, not only fourth down, but we're running fake deep.
fake deep. Here's the connection I found between Lanning and Dillingham that's great. They hire their assistants. So, like, Lanning lets Levis call the game and make decisions, and Dillingham's the same thing with Marcus Arroyo. And by the way, I solved an issue. I wasn't sure. I could never understand how a school could take a quarterback like Justin Herbert and make him look worse from the junior year to the senior year to where it impacted his draft status. I'm like, how can you have someone as great as Justin Herbert and yet somehow manage to screw him up, right? So I was like, was it Cristobal or was it Arroyo? And I thought for a while it might be Arroyo. But this year, with what he's done at Arizona State with Sam Levitt and that offense and Cam Scatteraboo and putting him in the Heisman conversation, I now know that Marcus Arroyo is just fine as an offensive coordinator and an offensive mind and a play caller. It was all Cristobal who was screwing it up at Oregon because of his unwillingness to let go of his conservative style on the offensive side of the ball. It was him. It was not Arroyo.
Well, and not to get too deep into it, though, but you have to wonder, what's the difference between Kenny Dillingham and Mario Cristobal? Cristobal has been fired. He's been fired. He knows the ramifications of bad play calling and what the consequence. Dillingham doesn't know.
No,
he's nothing.
He said the other day, "Hey, I'm hired to be fired."
He's been he's been coaching since he was 17. And he's been on an upward track his entire career. He has not yet had to go back down. So of course he's going to run fourth. Whereas Cristobal's like, nope, safe play here is to run it. The safe play here is to kick the field goal. We don't want to upset the apple cart too much. Also, he's an offensive lineman. You know, he wanted to prove that he could build Oregon into an SEC school, and for the most part, he did. Problem was, an absolute Ferrari for a quarterback, and you kept him in the garage.
It's one of the greatest misuse of resources in the history of college football because Justin Herbert he's one of the most perfect quarterbacks I've ever seen. He's great.
He's unbelievable.
So, anyways, I figured that out. Marcus Arroyo knows what he's doing. I love these younger coaches in college football who are. They just have a better ability to adapt to the changing landscape in college football. Some of these older coaches, and it's not, it's nothing on them, but it's hard when you're older to adjust and embrace the new way of doing things when you're used to one way of college football and all of a sudden it's brand new. And when you have guys like Kenny Dillingham and Dan Lanning who want the best for their players, and if they want to transfer, they're encouraging them to go out and find the best for them. It's different than some of the old guard who struggles with the new way of things.
It's the reason why Nick Saban will go down as the greatest college football coach of all time, because Nick Saban figured out how to win in the BCS era, and he figured out how to win in a college football playoff era, and he figured out how to win with transfer portals, and he figured out how to win with defense and then with offense. Like, he could adapt. He saw the landscape and he made the adjustment and wasn't too proud to do it. Now you're seeing what Dan Lanning's been able to do at Oregon, knowing that, hey, what advantage do we have? We got a billionaire benefactor who has maybe the most recognizable brand in all of athletics.
Yeah.
Maybe let's get these kids on the Nike payroll.
Yeah, it's not
Shocker,
a bad idea.
you have a quarterback every year. Weird.
All right, we'll keep things rolling here. Justin Myers, Chad doing live here at Spirit Mountain Casino for the kickoff to the college football playoff with Indiana and Notre Dame, which is just underway with 14 minutes left in the first, no score. This is the place to bet on college sports. And we got a triple header tomorrow in the college football playoff after tonight's game with Indiana and Notre Dame. You got your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, looks like we had an early turnover.
Yeah.
In Notre Dame, Indiana, thanks to the assist from the official.
Hard to tell if it was 100% the official's fault. Threw into triple coverage as well, but I mean, it's never good when you're on the road in a playoff game to throw into triple coverage in field goal range. But yeah, Indiana turns it over.
You know, it's funny. We were just talking about tradition in these different spots. Like, whether you love Notre Dame or hate them, like when you see South Bend, Indiana, and you see Touchdown Jesus, and you see the gold helmets and the blue and their colors, like that's about as college football as you can get right there.
I'm going to say this with a fairly large Notre Dame fan sitting right in front of us,
yes.
Staring us down. But college football fans don't like to admit it. College football's better when Notre Dame's good.
It is.
It just is. They're one of those teams. It's better when Notre Dame is good, and when they are a factor, college football is just better.
It's still the greatest game that I've ever seen in college football, and it doesn't involve any team I have interest in. But the Notre Dame-Miami game in 1988 with the Catholics versus convicts, to me, that is the greatest college football game of all time. Notre Dame got the win. They ended up with an unbeaten season, and they go on to win the national championship with Tony Rice and Lou Holtz. Like that game right there, and the 30 for 30 on that game is amazing. But that, to me, was the greatest game in one of the most holy of all sites in college football.
Well, and we've been talking about it all day, which is why we get really excited about not only these matchups, but just kind of getting excited about college football in general. Like these matchups where you get different styles, different cultures, different types of players, and yet they can get on the football field and put a great game together. It's why I love this sport. It's what makes it great. It is the fact that you can get a bunch of kids from South Florida and Liberty City to go to the U, and then you get a bunch of very smart Catholic high GPA kids, and they can play football and at a high level. I love it. It's my favorite thing about college football.
I think it's terrific. All right, Ohio State, you and I were talking about this earlier, and it looks like Notre Dame's going to go in for their first touchdown and take the early lead on Indiana. Boom.
Boy, that was fast. That was quick. That's what they call TO to TD, turnover to touchdown, in a hurry.
Wow. What a scene, too. That's incredible.
98, big
All
one.
right, so Notre Dame, 98-yard touchdown run in the college football playoff. That doesn't suck.
There we go.
All right, I asked you this earlier, and you said that if you injected Duck fans with True Serum, they don't want Ohio State. Ideally, in the Rose Bowl, from the standpoint that we view Tennessee as a better matchup to get the win, right?
I think there is something about already beating a team, and mentally you're just like, okay, that's done. That's in the past. And whereas Ohio State, looking forward, they get the win. They're like, all right, great, we get a second chance at Oregon. Now, Dan Lanning's going to find a way to motivate. We've seen all the videos all year, the thumbs down, and they'll jump around, and he's going to find a way to motivate his team. And also in the postseason, it's different. But I think if you were to ask, feet to the fire, I think Oregon fans would much rather face Tennessee. And the other factor of this is...
But what is that saying? Why did we adopt that saying in sports where it's like, oh, it's really hard to beat a team a second or a third time? It wasn't for Washington last year.
That's true.
I mean, it happens all the time
true.
where teams match up, and guess what? You get a second win. Like, I don't know why. It's not impossible to beat a team a second or a third time if you play good football.
Yeah, I think it's a mental thing. At least from a fan's perspective, it's a mental. I know everything that had to go right for Oregon to win that game at Austin Stadium.
It was a lot.
And it wasn't like they played their best game. I mean, they did some very dumb stuff. Like, they had a wide receiver got kicked out of the game in the first quarter. But
for spitting on someone.
Spitting on a guy. But, they got an onside kick.
Yeah.
They got some help with clock management at the end. And it's just like, I think there is a worry. There's a worry that if Ohio State shows up and plays their best, they are tough to beat.
Yeah.
And I truly think, as crazy as it sounds, the egg they laid at Michigan is a false flag. I think Ohio State, outside of Oregon, is the best team in this college football playoff. I really do.
I do, yeah. That's the reason why I would prefer Tennessee, just because I believe that Ohio State, of all the teams in the playoff, if you just go from top down on the roster, I think they're the most talented team roster-wise in the playoff. They got dudes.
Well, they've got NFL guys at every level, especially on offense, which is amazing that Ryan Day got duped into playing Michigan style again, right? That it's amazing that it happened again because they were at home. It didn't seem like crazy adverse weather conditions. All they had to do was go and play up-tempo. Michigan couldn't stop their speed on the outside, but instead you wanted to prove how tough you were, and you had to prove that you could win in Michigan style because you got punked the year before and the year before that, and it bit him again. If he learns that lesson, Ohio State's a tough out.
Yeah.
They're tough out. But if he keeps doing it, and if he tries to do it again against Tennessee, and Chip Kelly's in the same boat too. Now, who knows? Like, was Chip Kelly trying to call different plays, and Ryan Day maybe?
Don't you think Chip probably has autonomy over the offense?
You would think so, but this seems to be a pretty consistent thing with Ryan Day. But if they get into that trap again against Tennessee can go toe for toe in the trenches, and they probably want to ugly it up.
They do. They want to ugly it up because they can get pressure. The part that surprises me is that I just can't believe Ohio State. They wound up with Will Howard. Like, you would think that Ohio State could be better than Will Howard because he's not a dynamic quarterback.
I can't remember who said it. I think I'm stealing it from somebody on Twitter, but essentially they went to the Maserati dealership for the wide receivers. They went to the Bugatti dealership for the defensive backs. They went to the Lamborghini dealership for for their offensive line, and then they went to Dollar General for the quarterback.
You can't do that if you're Ohio State.
And
no disrespect to Will Howard, but he's not.
He's not dynamic.
No.
For the amount of money, and obviously the number's been floated around that Ohio State spent $20 million in NIL to keep the defensive backfield from going to the NFL, to keep the wide receiver core from going to the NFL. They spent a lot of money to keep guys intact and to bring in some guys. The fact that you couldn't go out and how did they not throw a bag at Cam Ward? Well, I know Cam Ward in Miami, and he's from Florida. How do you not throw a bag at Cam Ward? But instead, you go and get Kansas State's cast off.
Yeah, I don't
that's what Will Howard was.
No, that's why I credit Oregon State for going out and landing their quarterback. After the season was over, the brass at Oregon State knew that whatever we do, we've got to pull together our resources to get a quarterback. And they go out and get one of the best quarterbacks available. That's a win.
Yeah. Malik Murphy was at Texas. If you remember, 2 years ago, Quinn Ewers got banged up, filled in, and his stock was huge, right?
Yes.
He was the backup quarterback, done good. Everybody loves that guy. Then when they got Arch Manning, it was pretty clear he wasn't going to be playing. So he went to Duke. He had a good year at Duke.
26 touchdowns led him to 9 wins
at
Duke.
And came out, and Oregon State got him, and good for Trent Bray, because that's what. If you are going to go into this uncertain future that Oregon State still has and Washington State still has, you better have a quarterback. And they got one. And you can build off of that, too.
You know what's amazing is I was talking to Alex Brink the other day, and I saw this report from Coach Dickert before he bolted for Wake Forest. But the Cougs came up with a package. They offered a 7-figure deal to John Mateer. Mm-hmm. And he turned it down because he's going to get much more than that going to Oklahoma.
Yes.
But that's impressive. Like, in college football now, that you get offered 7 figures to play at Washington State, and you bolt because you get more money to go to Oklahoma. That's unbelievable to me for John Mateer.
Well, then there is the other part of this, which is going to be, until they figure out this Pac-12 thing, until they figure out what they are.
Yeah,
and I'm talking about both
stabilize
the Cougs and the Beavs, until they figure out what this conference is going to be. Are you going to try to be the last power conference? Are you going to try to be the best group of 5 conference? Can you get that last member or two in to kind of solidify your football? Until you figure that out, you're at a disadvantage of keeping a guy as good as Mateer. You just are going to be at a disadvantage. And what's funny is the Beavs and the Cougs seem to be, hand in hand. Like they were, unlikely dance partners, but were pushed together. And then Jake Dickert out of nowhere was like, no, we're not their friends. We're not in this together. Boy, how the turntables have turned, because all of a sudden it looked like Oregon State was a complete and utter mess, and Washington State seemed to have everything. Well, their coach bolted, their quarterback bolted. Oregon State's got an alum in Trent Bray who's taken over the team.
Yeah.
They've got a quarterback that has big-time football experience, and the Cougs are the ones that are reeling now.
I asked Brendan, I think it was yesterday or this week, which was a more greasy maneuver, Jonathan Smith leaving Corvallis or Jake Dickert bolting the Palouse to head out to Wake Forest.
Yeah.
And to me, it's not even a question. It's the Dickert maneuver going to Wake Forest because after all the talk he did about commitment and buy-in and this and that, he leaves to Wake Forest, which is not a step up. It might be a step down. It's arguably the worst football program in the ACC. At least Jonathan Smith went to a program that is far superior to the one he left and went to the premier conference in the Big Ten.
The other part of this, you mentioned it, in the way that they handled it. And again, I know Oregon State fans are never going to like the way that Jonathan Smith handled it. I get it, right? I get it.
Probably
I'm an Oregon fan. I didn't like the way that Mario Cristobal handled it. I didn't like the way, because when you get broken up with, it doesn't matter how they break up with you. It stinks,
No,
okay?
I've never enjoyed a breakup.
Getting dumped stinks. It's not you, it's me. Really? It doesn't seem to be. But if you remember that last year of Jonathan Smith, every time he was asked about the future, what did he say? It's out of our control. There's nothing we can do about it. And every time they asked Jake Dickert about it, what did he do? He threw a fit. He threw a temper tantrum. He picked a fight with Lee Corso, an elderly stroke survivor. He's like, oh, Lee Corso says nobody wants us. And then he went on, a handful of radio shows up and around the Seattle area, and he said, I'm staying forever. He said, I'm here my kids are here. I'm staying forever. Jonathan Smith never said he was staying forever.
No.
Now, he also did say, I haven't made a decision, and boy, that plane was there real fast. So, but he never said he was staying forever. Jake Dickert stood there and looked multiple times in Cougs fans' eyes and was like, I'm here forever. I'm here for the next 10 years. He said that this summer.
Yeah.
And gone.
I don't know why he had to say that. You don't have to say that.
You don't have to say it.
You don't have to
Don't
say
paint
that.
yourself into a corner. So where you look like a complete and utter buffoon, which he looks like now.
He does. He looks like a complete and utter buffoon. And
Wake Forest. Wait, first off, okay, Wake Forest, my favorite Wake Forest stat that I've heard, because I got a lot of Cougs on my Twitter feed, and they are fired up. Wake Forest hasn't had a coach leave the program with a winning record since 1954.
Are you kidding me?
Since 1954, they haven't had a coach retire or leave with a winning record since 1954. And then Dickert goes out and says, well, we're up there in the Northwest. We got Canada and Idaho. Not a lot of football players. Boy, I look at all these footballs. Like, okay, Washington was in the national championship last year. They're surrounded by Canada and Idaho. Oregon's the number one team in the country. Boise's in the college football playoff. Why are all those? Why are those teams playing on a national level? But you got to go to Wake Forest to be able to get top tier talent, as opposed to Washington State, who puts dudes in the NFL.
Yeah, one thing that is great about the portal and the NIL opportunities now is that you get players like Mateer. There's another gentleman, Mark Hamper, who played at West Lynn with Sam Levitt. So he didn't get recruited. He ends up at Idaho, and turns out he's a pretty good wide receiver. Well, now he's getting interest from Arizona State, and multiple schools are jumping in now. So it gives an opportunity for these kids where even if they don't get the original interest from schools that they might want to go prove yourself, have a big year, and then all of a sudden teams are going to have interest in what you might be able to bring to the table.
Let me ask you this, because there is going to be an exception to every rule, but we kind of saw the way not to go about it with Oklahoma, your beloved Sooners. But if you were a team, if you were a perennial top 25 team, would you ever play a freshman quarterback? If you have resources and you can get out in the transfer portal, would you ever play a freshman? I mean, I know Nico Iamaleava is going to be playing tomorrow for Tennessee, but they've protected him. But you think about it, across college football, if I could go out and write a check and go get a guy who's got 3 years of even Group of 5 experience, I'm not playing a freshman.
Yeah, unless I'm getting like Jameis Winston, the rare freshman that can come in and just be phenomenal from the start. No.
Sure.
The reason why I like the idea of the transfer portal for my quarterbacks is that if a guy transfers in, he's not going to leave. Because once you get the transfer, he's done transferring, right? You get one transfer without eligibility being knocked? Is that how many times you can transfer?
I think you can transfer twice now. But
twice? Hey, Brendan, what's the rule on that? Where you can transfer?
I believe Justin's on it. I think you can get 2.
2?
Yeah, Malik Murphy was at Texas, transferred to Duke.
I thought it maybe
he's Duke to Oregon State.
I thought it might be a COVID exception in there for him.
Well, they're still holding on to this COVID.
Well, this is the final year of the COVID. I'm just saying
so far until somebody else takes them to court. Did you see? Like now, JUCO doesn't count.
Yeah, so you
that
get
was
4
so
years of
cool.
eligibility.
Yeah, so you get 4 years of eligibility plus 2 years of JUCO. You can play. If you throw in a red shirt, you can play 7 years, and you're fine. 2 years of JUCO, a red shirt, and boom, you're playing when you're 27. Football forever.
All right, let's see what that rule is.
Because it might have been a COVID thing, because I thought that was the same thing with Gabriel, who left Central Florida and left Oklahoma and got his 2 transfers.
Yeah, I
Okay.
believe now, actually, fellas, to clarify that, looks like as a result of the NCAA versus House settlement, players can now transfer in limited times. There is no
Boom.
There is no there is no telling anyone where they can't play.
Unlimited transfer. It's the antitrust stuff.
Yes,
This
sir.
is the mess. This is the mess that we found each other in. Because again, how can you, if you are a player and you say, hey, if I'm at Team X, Team Y is offering me more money, I want to go work there. You can't get them to stop.
Who would have thought that we were going to arrive at this point, all because Ed O'Bannon walked into a living room and said, hey, look, I'm playing you, Ed. What do you mean you're playing me? I never said I was going to be in that video game.
Uncle Ed, look, I'm playing with you. Like, well,
He had no idea. He's like, wait, I'm in a video game?
yeah.
But I blame the NCAA for this. They're the ones who continued to push back and not want to adjust and change under the guise of student athletes.
Wasn't
right?
it also it was Ed O'Bannon, and wasn't it also like a kicker at South Florida? Because I think like that, and maybe Brendan, you can find this. There's a kicker at I want South Florida or Central Florida, one of those directional Florida schools, who had like 4 million YouTube subscribers for nothing to do with football, but he was making bank on YouTube, and the NCAA came and was like, yeah, you can't do that. And he's like, wait a minute.
What do you mean I can't do
This
that?
is my YouTube channel, because I didn't know how YouTube worked. And so it was some kicker at South Florida and Ed O'Bannon
Unbelievable.
completely turned the whole system around.
Dude, it's amazing to me that the college athletes were prevented from being able to make money. Like, I remember how the players were vilified for signing autographs or, doing things outside of the realm of the rules to be able to make a few bucks. They were vilified.
Well, to me, there was always the issue is, so autographs, right? It's like, well, they should be able to sign. What's an autograph worth, right? And now we're finding out once they're able to be paid. It's like, yeah, we need your autograph, but that autograph needs to go on a letter of intent, and then I'll pay you for that autograph. Like they say no pay for play, but what else are they doing? They're not paying for play. That's what they're doing.
Of course, that very few of the players who are getting money right now are actually, doing anything with their name, image, and likeness.
No.
They're getting paid for their services.
Exactly.
And I don't have an issue with that. I just I'm hoping they get to a point where they can have, like you mentioned, as your wife, she gives you the free lawyer advice, get the CBA in place and then have the controls over the game so that, because it can't go on like this forever. It just can't.
It feels like it's reaching a breaking point, and I think it's going to come down, I think, ultimately to fans, right? Yeah. Because right now, if you're an Oregon fan, this is great. Let's keep this system forever. Yeah. This is the best. You just go out and buy the best players.
No, Phil Knight's, he's got the Paul Allen dream. It's like, I can spend as much money as I want to buy up the best players, and we can go out and just win a championship.
And there's no salary cap.
No. Meaning Phil Knight could dump $1 billion into the Ducks NIL if he so chose.
If he wanted to. And there's no rule against it right now. But that's me as an Oregon fan. Me as a college football fan, it does get like, okay, so Oregon, and I'll make this quick because I'm hearing the music. Bear Alexander, terrific defensive lineman, who he committed to Georgia, decommitted to Georgia, recommitted to Georgia, transferred to USC, and is now transferring again. And he was at Oregon, I think, 2 days ago. And it's like, enough is enough, dude. Yeah. You got to pick a school. But you got talent.
He's negotiating.
He's a mercenary.
He is.
Mercenaries get paid. That's what we learned on The Rock.
All right, we'll keep things rolling here. It's the countdown to the college football playoff, and we have game number 1 underway. Notre Dame on top of Indiana, 7-0, first quarter from South Bend. Justin Myers, Chad Doing here on the Rip City Drive. That's great. All right, Justin, I know for years you were one of the ones that thought an education was enough for a college football player.
Sure.
Look at how much money these guys are rolling
insane.
in now.
It's absurd.
Like,
It's
if this
absurd.
money's there, look at what they were being withheld from for so long. And yet they could walk into the college bookstore and see their name, image, and likeness being sold. And they couldn't go out and earn a couple of bucks on an autograph. It's just wild that we're in this place now.
I've always felt like there could have been a middle ground.
Well,
right?
of course.
There could have been a middle ground
That
instead
wouldn't
of
have gotten to this point.
But I think everybody lost their mind during COVID, and the NCAA and everybody just was like, fine, we're out of it. And they were just like, you guys deal with it then.
Well, because they kept getting their balls handed to them in court. They were getting crushed.
Still to this day.
They can't win a case.
Like 3 months ago, they got crushed again. Oh, no, forget 3 months ago. I think this week, the Supreme Court is like, yeah, the junior college kids can play for 4 years. Why? Why should we stop them? And so, yeah, it was ridiculous that in 2014, Oregon was selling number 8 jerseys and saying those are not Mariota jerseys. Those are Oregon jerseys, right? that was ridiculous.
That's crooked, man.
But it's also ridiculous now that the third string tight end is demanding 6 figures or he's going to bounce. That's also ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
But I guess, who knows? Maybe the market will even it out. Maybe some regulation will even it out. But
the reason why I don't have an issue with the kids looking to get theirs now is because I know how much money the NCAA is making off of these playoff games. The money that's rolling in from the TV deals is substantial. Billions.
I think, like, the conferences, yeah, the conferences, that was where the crookedness came. And I guess for the NCAA, I think the hypocrisy was the basketball tournament because we just signed a $4 billion deal with CBS, but they're student athletes.
You can't buy them a meal.
Did you ever cover any of the first round games when they came to Portland?
I did, yeah.
You ever sit in those press conferences and we had to be told that they were going to be addressed as student athletes, that you couldn't address them as players, and that whole charade that was going on.
A bunch of bullcrap.
Meanwhile, you can't have anything that didn't say vitamin water sitting in front of you, or they would come and they would take it away. It's like, I wonder why that is.
Or when they go into Rose Garden, like any arena they're in, they cover up everything. And they put NCAA, like you can't even tell you're in the Rose Garden because the NCAA is decorated out with their name everywhere. But Brendan, what's the name of the kicker that had the YouTube subscribers?
Yeah, so I actually just closed it down, but because he doesn't go by his actual name, but Donald D. LaHaye was the kicker for UCF, and back in 2017, it was the NCAA came to him and said, "You pick YouTube, you pick football." No ifs, ands, or buts about it because his YouTube channel was making money, as people can do with YouTube. Flash forward to today, fellas. Checked in. Mr. has just under 7 million YouTube subscribers. So I think he's doing okay.
Well, what's your estimate? Just give me a rough estimate for how much money you think he's making off his YouTube.
Okay, so 1.8. Let's just look at his most recent video. 1.8 million views. As I told you guys, I've heard it varies, but anywhere from $5 to $10 per 1,000 views. So, again, I'm in radio, fellas, because math. But that's talking probably several million dollars. Yeah, I mean, he's doing quite well.
Let's see, trying to do the math here. And
See, we all got into radio for this reason, Justin. We're not math aficionados.
So he's probably making around
Couple $100,000?
Well, he's making if I just did the math right, which probably isn't the way it is. He makes about off of that 1.8 million, which I think is probably an average video.
Yeah.
That's $20K for
bad.
a day.
Not bad.
For a day?
Not bad.
Because that's just one video.
Yeah.
And yet
That's just one
the
video.
NCAA rolls in telling him that he's got to shut it down.
Could you imagine you just make one video and you just get a check from YouTube? Here's $20K, Chad. Thanks for that video.
Yeah,
I would tell him to put an egg in their shoe and beat it. He's got that thing down.
900 videos. Again, I'm trying to find one with a low view.
He's printing money.
Yeah,
Printing
like the
money.
low views guys are $1 million. The high views, his highest, I actually found a higher one, 22 million. So, yeah, that dude's doing okay.
So if you're like, I didn't realize the numbers were like that. So if you're like Paige Sporanic and you're putting out these golf videos, you're just killing it.
Crushing it. Absolutely
There's
crushing.
again.
I wish I could be really hot and have a nice rack. I don't. I got nothing, man. I got nothing.
It's fascinating what YouTube is. I mean, Chad, you've told me about your YouTube rabbit holes. I know Justin and I used to talk about them too. I'm the same way.
I contribute.
And the fact of the matter is, you go look. I believe
I've gotten paid sporadic at least $1,000, and I know. and Bryson DeChambeau, I got him paid too, man. I can't stop watching him.
Is golf your biggest YouTube rabbit hole?
Music.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You get you go deep dive.
I go
into
music.
the concert videos.
I watch a ton of old games too.
Yeah.
Like full length. I love going back and watch. I just watched the Oregon Auburn title game the other night because I still can't believe how well Darren Thomas played in that game.
It was right there.
He was right there.
That was right there.
That throw that he threw to Mail.
Jeffrey Mail, yeah.
On the long touchdown pass. That throw was perfect. And he had a guy getting ready to blast him too.
It's unfortunate because it gets when they lost and the whole Michael Dyer, whether he was down or not, it gets lost. That last when down 8 in the national title game.
How about the throw across his body to Mail for the 2-point conversion?
For the 2-point conversion.
That's
tie the ball game up when it looked like everything was. Oh.
And who was it? Casey, his dad. Matthews forced the fumble that gave him the ball back.
From Cam Newton.
Yeah,
it's right there.
I like to go back and watch the old games because you forget it's like, you forget how close. Or I like going back in the regular season to look at games that led to teams like they should have lost the game to Cal. I went back and watched that game.
Yeah.
But they put together that long drive and ate up a bunch of time and somehow survived that game.
Well, and I believe Cliff Harris with a punt return for a touchdown.
No one likes to admit this, but you could make an argument he was MVP of that team because of his special teams prowess, and he was a ball hawk.
Also, fun fact on Cliff Harris. We'll end it with a fun fact, I guess. He invented the term the natty.
He did?
He did.
He's getting paid for that?
No, I don't think he gets paid for that. Should have put it on YouTube.
Should have.
But Oregon beat Arizona to win the Pac-10 that year, and they still had Civil War the next week. And a reporter from the Oregonian asked him, "He's like, what does it feel like to win the conference title?" He said, "Yeah, the conference title is cool, but we about that natty." He's in the Oregonian the next day. Call it a natty still to this day.
All right, big thanks to Justin Myers and to everyone here at Spirit Mountain Casino. This is your place to bet on college sports, biggest sports book in the state of Oregon. Justin will join me for our next playoff show, which will be New Year's Day from 10 to 1 right here in the sports book at Spirit Mountain Casino. Big thanks to Brandon Sauter. We'll talk to you tomorrow.